My name is John Rappa, Chair of the Financial Planning Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order on Tuesday, December 16th. Start with a roll call. Brian Maines.
Present.
Ken Picard.
Present.
Susan Satori.
Present.
Mike Shaka.
Present.
Scott Stockland.
Present.
And John Rappa, present. We have a quorum.
Success.
Second order of business tonight is approval of meeting minutes from last week, December the 9th.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 9th as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed. Okay. Third order tonight, the fiscal 2027 DPW Water Sewer Facilities Enterprise Fund Capital Presentations. Scott Charpentier, good evening, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. So we'll go through the FY 2027 proposed capital items. We have 12 of them, 9 out of the general fund, 3 out of the enterprise funds. There's 2 water enterprise and 1 sewer enterprise. You all have the detail sheets, so I won't go through each one of them and read them verbatim. I did provide a memorandum that kind of outlines a little bit, very similar and parallel to the detail sheets. I prepare this early in the process just so I gather my thoughts, and then once the detail sheets come out, transition it over to the detail sheets. A lot of what we're proposing is replacement. There is 1 new piece of equipment that we're proposing, and that's the first thing you see in your packet. It is a 1-ton facilities van. In 2024, we created a facilities division. Prior to that, the facilities was taken care of by the town administrator's office with no dedicated staff. 2024, we brought in a facilities manager to manage the buildings, and we also brought in a staff member to DPW to aid in the physical work for the facilities. The position that was brought in, or the person that was brought in for facilities, was actually backfilling a position that was left vacant in 2007. When the housing crash went through, 1 position went vacant, and it never got filled. So this is reestablishing a position that's been in the department for a long time. Currently, our facilities staff member works out of a 1-ton dump truck. He has a blue Connex box in the back. Those are the little job boxes you see. And that's how he services the facilities needs. Those needs are typical, swapping out an outlet, replacing some light bulbs, fixing some carpentry, loose carpet, changing HVAC filters, exercising valves at our senior center, things like that. It's cumbersome to do when he gets a call to the senior center. Hey, we see water on the floor. So he goes there with his dump body, takes a look at it, sees what he needs, goes back to the shop, gets some tools, takes some things apart, goes to the hardware store, it's inefficient. A lot of our peer communities that have facility divisions in their public works departments have vans. Just like you would see a plumber or a electrician that shows up at your house, same thing. It's a large rolling toolbox. So that's the new piece of equipment that we're proposing. It's got a cost of $100,000. All the equipment costs we have proposed tonight are derived from quotes from vendors. The vast majority of our quotes are through state bid lists, so they're competitive at the state level. So that's the facilities van. It's proposed to be an F-350. E350, so it has adequate towing capacity. So in the event the facilities staff needs to mobilize with a compressor to open up a manhole cover, let's say at the library or what have you, he can pull the equipment he needs. Some facilities divisions you've seen, Westboro has a few of the vans. Some of them use those little Ford Transits, which are great for their purpose, but they only have one purpose, is a large toolbox. This can actually tow equipment as well, which I think is beneficial. It's more flexibility in the vehicle's use. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want me to stop after each item and go through some questions and dialogue, or?
I have a question after every
I think
section?
after each makes some sense.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the first one, aside from the paint job, what else is included in the price?
In the price is simply outfitting the interior. So when you buy the van, it comes as a simple shell. So you get the van purchased through one of the Ford vendors that are on the state bid list, and you either have that vendor outfit it internally, or you seek quotes from an outfitting specific company. Shelves, inverters, so you can put your an inverter would take the DC and turn it into AC, so you can charge your tool batteries and the like. Some brackets, shelving, nothing extravagant, interior lighting. There may be a rack on it. I would prefer to have a rack on the top for ladders. We have a variety of ladders, not all at the facilities. Tow package hitch. This will not plow. It can plow. I'd prefer it not to plow, at least when it's new. One of our exercises in DPW is to cycle vehicles down through the ranks. You buy a new one, you treat it nice. You don't give that to your 17-year-old son to drive around. You give him the one that's 3 times down the ladder a little bit. So this should not be plowing.
Okay. Other questions, gentlemen, ladies?
Yeah, so Scott, thanks for the details. I guess, in looking at all of the items that you have listed here, I had presented earlier in the year some questions that I was hoping to have answers to prior to us opining on these types of items, specifically trying to understand a little bit more about your department, your headcount, your resources, and the alignment of those resources as it relates to your staffing, and also relative to, the utilization of that human capital as it relates to, fleet efficiency, efficiency of the overall department, and really justification for having a fleet of its size. We don't have any understanding or appreciation, or at least I don't, of what the operating efficiencies are. So looking at capital expenditures is very, very difficult to justify any expenditures without understanding, what's going on with this current fleet. What's the makeup of the team? What's necessary? Is there any kind of fleet management system in place?
No,
So
we do not have a fleet management software.
So there's no fleet management system. How do we manage the efficiencies of the human capital to know that, that the staffing levels are correct, that they're being optimized, that the taxpayers are getting good value for the amount of staff and the amount of equipment that's here? How is that measured?
We don't have a metrics to, we're not dispatch. We don't log in a phone call, a response, and have an incident report. We're not PD, we're not FD.
Okay,
So
but I
we have a-
mean, even FedEx or UPS, they're monitoring their fleet. When you call Verizon, they're logging exactly when that technician got to this house, how much time they spent there, when they got on to the next job, so that they're optimizing the human capital that's part of that payroll. And then also understanding how the utilization of that fleet is being used.
Okay?
So I find it very difficult to assess the value or the necessity of any of these things until we have that information. And I made it very clear very early on in the year that those are things that I was very interested in understanding. I don't know if that memo never got to you.
I don't have the resources to have work order management software, timing-specific logging. I don't know who would do that. We don't have the physical resources
So
to have somebody, excuse me, allocated to inputting information into a fleet management software, which is one thing I would like to have in the future. We don't have that personal resource to do that. We don't have a person sitting at the garage working through work order software, identifying the time it took to do something, what the next task is. We don't have that body.
Well, that's not how that works.
Okay.
So first off, I guess the question is did those questions ever make it to you?
Yeah.
So you were aware that these questions were desired?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
answers were desired?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't have fleet management software.
Okay.
We don't have a body who has the skill set to utilize fleet management software. We have a file cabinet, and we have a file on each piece of equipment, and we have periodic maintenance, whether it be on hours or mileage.
Okay, so fleet management software and those systems are all self-reported. So that the person that's in the piece of equipment, just like your, Verizon technician or your UPS person or whomever, is self-inputting when they get to the job, just like, your plumber, your electrician for larger establishments. So this is a very common software out there. It doesn't require a lot of manpower, but what it does do is it provides metrics to understand what the capital, what the utilization of those capital expenditures are,
Yep.
as well as optimization of the human capital.
I understand.
So if you're asking for more equipment, we don't know if the equipment that you currently have is being fully utilized, and we don't know if the personnel are being fully utilized.
Okay.
So right now, what all it is conjecture.
If I may, Chair.
Please.
Mike, I think that's more of a operating budget question. If we're worried about, and we're not an operating budget review.
Well, I agree. However, they're intrinsically tied to each other. So if you're looking at appropriations, I see that Mr. Rogers is on the line. If you're looking at appropriations relative to the spend for that, that's certainly in their area. However, without visibility into understanding the level of efficiencies, I can't in good conscience be in agreement of making capital expenditures to something that I don't know is being efficiently utilized. In terms of equipment or people.
What is an efficient utilization of a piece of equipment?
It has to be measured. And you-
What is it? What would be an efficient utilization of?
What percentage of use?
So our equipment is like tools in a toolbox. All right, we don't have, like Verizon, we don't have a staff member with a van and a tablet to go out and do his daily work tasks. That's not how Public Works operates. We have a toolbox, which is a garage. If you look at a bucket truck, we're not a tree company. Our bucket truck is not utilized daily. It's utilized when needed for tree work. We have patch trucks. The patch trucks are utilized when we need to patch the road. It's like my toolbox in my house. I have a 1 1/16 inch socket with a 1/2 inch drive on it. I only use that when I have to take a wheel hub off. I may not use that for 4 months, so it's a very low utilization.
So-
But when I need to use it, it's the only tool that will do that. So I have no other tool that will take a tree down other than a bucket truck. But I'm not going to do that when the operator of a bucket truck is patching a pothole.
So the point to that, relative to the equipment, is by having an understanding and appreciation what the utilization rates are of, let's say, the cherry picker, or, your XYZ piece of equipment, can help us understand whether it makes sense to buy and own that piece of property or to rent that piece of property.
So you don't-
Because if you're only using a cherry picker, once a year, then it certainly doesn't make sense for us to have the capital expenditure of buying that piece of equipment when we can simply rent it on an
can't-
as-needed basis.
You can't simply rent a bucket truck. They're custom outfitted. You rent to own. So if we were going to, I'm sorry, you asked.
Well, there's
May I?
a backhoe,
May I?
fill in the blank.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so when you rent a backhoe or a front-end loader, a skid steer, what have you, it's more of a lease to own. You pay the full value of the piece of equipment over the duration of the lease to own, 7 years, 9 years. They don't get much longer than that than I've seen. They have an interest rate in there, whatever the borrowing interest rate is, and you end up owning the equipment at the end, or you trade it back into them for a value, and then you go about doing another one. You can have short-term rentals here and there, but they're relatively infrequent, and they're not reliable.
So you're telling me that every piece of equipment that the department has is rent to own, and that there's no short-term leases that are viable for those pieces of
I'm
equipment?
saying we own everything. No, I never said we lease any equipment.
No, I'm saying that it's impossible, though, to lease it on a short-term basis and as needed. Like, some of the pieces of equipment that you have here, or some of those that are in the garage. The point is that without understanding the efficiency and the use of these pieces of equipment, we have no gauge on whether buying or leasing makes more sense. And further to that point, relative to human capital, my expectation would be bench utilization should be somewhere around 90%.
What do you refer to as bench
The
utilization?
human capital, to understand and being able to measure leveraging those assets, those human assets. But right now, without any monitoring of that, we don't know if your staffing levels are appropriate, if they're too small, they're too high. When we're looking at things like, for example, when the superintendent came and he was showing a room that needed a little bit of work, it was a storage room, and they wanted $60,000 to do this to a third party, we don't know if you have the excess capacity to have a body go there with certainly the skill sets to be able to provide that service to that storage room. So all we have is your word, which I take your word as very good. However, I'm a Reagan Trust But Verify person. I'd like to understand the human capital that's being utilized and have it be measured through some kind of an accounting. And there's
So-
plenty of software out there that can do that.
We don't have, I'm
No,
sorry.
no. I was going to say, we could go and do this all night. I think what he's looking for is the equipment that you have, you either use it cyclically, so many times. So he just wants more of an explanation of the pieces that you have. Would it even make sense to rent them once a year? Because you use them, 4 or 5 times, 6 times a year.
We can't rent a street sweeper. Everybody sweeps the streets in the spring. They're not available to sweep, to rent in the spring. It's like,
We're gonna be here all night if
Yep.
we start going back on an argument about this. I think that Mike asked for some information early on, and that is a courtesy that we gave to all of the, departments by asking for it in advance. And really, it wasn't provided, and tonight, the conversation's not going in the right place. I think we need to know how many people work in your department, how many vehicles you have, and how often you're using them. We certainly find out how many people are in the police department, how many cruisers they have, how often they're out in them. So those are the kinds of things. And then from there, some of these more detailed questions should come out. But until we receive that kind of information that starts to help to put it together, I think we could have a better conversation.
so all of that
Absolutely.
information, Susan, has been provided in every single budget document that has been prepared since I've been here. There's been a complete matrix of every single staff member, what their position is, what their percentages are in different divisions, what the division breakup is. None of that is hidden. It is completely available. There's 15 binders in
But you were
Stephanie's
asked to
office.
provide it. That's the problem, Scott.
We have the entire fleet here in this handout.
We
the-
have all the head count information.
That's not the question. The question isn't how many heads there are, it's utilization of those heads.
But we don't-
And it's managing and monitoring the fleet, and it's managing and monitoring the human capital to understand what those utilization rates are and that they're being done optimally.
But again, we don't have a dispatch department and to monitor exactly what vehicle is going where with what officer in it and what report or what call they're responding to. We don't have a mechanism for someone with a radio to say, blue Chevy side of the road or medical transport from Belmont. We don't operate like public safety. So we're very responsive. A concern comes in, a resident comes in, we get out there, we take care of it. We have lists of every burial we have. Compiling that information on what our staff does for a quarter in detail, I don't have the bandwidth to do
Are
that.
you familiar with any fleet operational software
Yes,
programs
yes,
that are out
and
there?
our staff does not have tablets,
So-
and we don't utilize work order software.
Mike, I think we've moved beyond that.
I mean, I'm telling you what we
He's
have and
asking
don't
for
have.
3 vehicles here, but there are other things, other capital projects that are not vehicle-related
Sure.
on this group.
Sure, but I'm going to have trouble with really recognizing any of these as a necessity without those answers.
Okay?
All right, so, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna, for, Mike's question here, the 1-ton facilities truck, I'm guessing you have a pretty good estimate of how frequent it would go out based on just, we don't need to be precise, like if you just estimate that, 1, and then 2, the other thing, 100K price tag kind of hurts, but we can unpack that one after we, after you provide us with like an estimated frequency.
I'm happy to provide the quotes. I mean, I have all the information, I have all the quotes. I'm happy to provide that. There's nothing hidden. The facilities division staff member, the field staff member, will utilize that van every day. Right now, he goes from essentially what truck is available. We have a dump body that has a sander in it right now, so we can't use that because it's a winter allocated piece of equipment. So now he's using a flatbed F-350. That flatbed F-350 may need to be utilized for another service, so he'll jump into whatever else is available because there isn't a dedicated facilities vehicle. It's an incredibly inefficient way for him to operate. If there's a detailed metric that needs to be developed, I'm happy to come up with a program and a cost to do that, to outfit every vehicle and every staff member with a tablet, to have work order software, to have fleet management software. We'll GPS them all if we need to. We don't have the physical or financial resources to implement that unless it's given to us. And if it is, I'm happy to do it. I'll train our staff. A lot of our staff are not very technologically oriented. We're talking pay-as-you-go phones. I'll do my best to try to train them on how to utilize technology. These are operators that have been in excavators and skid steers for 28 and 30 years. They just learned how to text and don't do email. I mean, we go through some training, and I had to log them in and teach them how to do that kind of stuff. I'm happy to do it if I have the resources. And we want to be efficient with our expenditures. I don't think sitting down and teaching them all how to do this and going through the exercise and finding a staff member to monitor and manage this, and no, it's not automatic. If somebody puts in the work order into the work order software, the staff member goes there, logs in where he is or where she is, what they did, how long it took, what materials they used, and then captures another work order and goes to the next location. None of that's automatic. That's all manual, and it's okay. I'm happy to do it. We just don't have the resources, man. The word's thrown everywhere. We don't have the money, and we don't have the staff.
Well, I for one, would very much like to see a line item added to your list of capital expenditure requests that would accommodate that type of a purchase so that you could have software that can measure efficiencies both for fleet management as well as for human capital. And they do produce these types of software systems made specifically for DPW municipalities that are very simple, very simple to make,
I'm aware
very simple to operate.
The fleet management is less than simple. The work order software is simple. Fleet management software is often a one-size-fits-most, as opposed to a smaller fleet with, 15 pieces of rolling stock on the road at any time.
Well, for me, that's the beginning of the conversation.
For me, I'd like to just say, having lived in this town for 30 years and been here the entire time that you've been running the highway department, I've never heard a complaint about how things are done in town and what kind of services are provided. It's just people are now working with very tight budgets, and they're looking at ways of saving money. Right here, Mike's asking to spend a little bit more money, which is hard during these times. So people want to understand if we're being efficient enough. I know that people call you, you put out a lot of fires on a given day. You could have a decision of what you're going to be doing one day, and it changes within one phone call. So I know that you adapt well. You have a good group of people working for you. They do a good job. What I'd like to ask about this van is, why all of a sudden now do you want this van, and he's been riding around in this not such great situation for a couple of years?
Because I've been complaining about how inefficient it is. When he shows up to work on, for example, doorknobs at Town Hall. You come in to work on some doorknobs at Town Hall to adjust the locks so they all work. You find out the jamb is damaged, so you got to go back and you got to get your flat cutoff saw, and you got to get yourself some lumber. You got to come in, you got to router it. Well, it's inefficient. It's just more efficient, and it's fine. We can live without. I mean, I'm not here to argue about something. I'm not here to beg for something, and I'm not here to try to convince somebody of something. I'm here to say, these are the things that I know are needed and or will make things more efficient. The van will make things more efficient for the facilities division, period. It absolutely will. Bud at the schools, he is far more efficient now that he has a utility body truck as opposed to the green pickup truck he had. That's why they got the utility body truck, to be more efficient. If it's not a desire of the committee, the community, or the board, that's fine. We'll go on to the next one. We'll talk about the unit heaters in the garage bay.
The point is, these systems of record benefit you as much as they benefit the taxpayers. It provides transparency, visibility, and it quantifies the utilization both of the fleet and the humans.
Mr.
So-
Chairman, I like to move forward. Mike, you've made your point. You've said it repeatedly.
Sure.
We have a lot of items to go over.
Sure.
You know, let's move forward. You clearly made your point.
Okay, I hope so.
Good. Scott, continue, please.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
So next up is our garage bay unit heaters. They're in the mechanics bay. We've done all the other heaters in the highway garage. These are the last two. They're original to the building. I think on the detail sheet, you'll see a picture of a nice new one. That's one of the ones in the garage bay. Mechanics bays are original to the building from 1984. They're well past their 20-year useful life, obviously. My concern is that when they fail, it'll be time-consuming to to install new. And if they fail, and they always fail in the winter because heaters tend not to fail in the summer, when it fails, the mechanics bay will be rendered useless. We cannot have a mechanic working in February at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's 37 degrees in the garage. It's not safe, and I would not put people I don't like through that process, never mind our staff. In which case, the trucks will be off the road until they can be serviced at one of the service facilities. In this case, likely Ballard Mac, because most of our vehicles are Macs. Ballard Mac is certainly busy in the wintertime, so you don't go in there with your Mac truck and say, it went down last night, we need it before the next storm. You don't get a prioritization. You get in line, and they take you when they get to you. So if the garage bay heater goes, it could be a catastrophic failure for our fleet. That's a need. If the Assabet students cannot do it, we had Assabet help us out with the heat pump installation over this past summer for the ground area, the living area, so to speak, the offices and the lavatories and the like. Assabet doesn't go on lifts or ladders, so they can't do that work. So we utilized Assabet staff, we utilized our in-house facilities staff to install and upgrade our heating system for the ground level stuff, to try to save money for the community. This we can't. So we need to hire it out, we need to have somebody do it.
So just a couple quick questions on this. So obviously more efficient. You've already done some of the units. Do you have like an estimate of the cost savings based on each new unit? I think that would just be helpful to explain, it's not huge dollars at 30,000. That would be helpful. And then the other piece I think would be helpful is to explain the cost if we did have to use MAC or some other, profit-seeking entity, I guess is how I'll put it, because there's obviously an increased expense with that. I would guess that over the course of 5 years, it's probably a cost-neutral project, so.
Yeah, they only allow you to put in certain efficiencies. I think it's like the 85 efficiency or greater, and these are from 84. But I can certainly get that from you. The manufacturers provide that.
Do you have a breakdown of the installation cost versus the equipment?
No.
Okay, I'd like to have that, please.
So Scott, my question, when you're done making your notes, is really something off of this. It's, I'm concerned about carbon monoxide in your garage with the gas heaters. Do you have a system?
Yeah.
To evacuate that?
Yeah, we don't have a evacuation system, though the pipes you see there are the ventilation systems in the photograph, and one's intake, one's output, and we do have CO monitors throughout the.
You have CO monitors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Scott, next item?
Sure. Next up is the police station emergency generator. This has been on the capital plan and deferred year after year after year after year. It's original to the building in 1988. It's well past its useful life. You'll probably hear that over and over again with pretty much every piece of equipment we say, because it's the case. Same thing at my house. My furnace is probably way too old, but hasn't broken yet. Difference with this is if it breaks and we lose power, we lose dispatch. That's a problem. We have a tow behind generator that can plug in, but we have one. So if we end up with the ice storm again, that tow behind generator is supposed to serve town hall, PD, and FD, and it can't because it's only one piece of equipment. So it would be at dispatch, and the other two buildings would be without energy. It's not too good for continuity of government. That's why we have the little baby generator here that powers a third of the building. Fire station, we're not worried about the generator because they're moving out soon. So this has been deferred for a while. The generator still functions. It's non-code compliant. It's indoors, which is unique. This building's generator was indoors until it got flooded in the basement. The fire station's generator is indoors as well. They should all be outdoors. That's just how you do generators nowadays. So the price tag here is pretty high because the work includes installing the generator outside.
Is there room to remove the existing one from that basement area at the
I'm
police station?
hoping it's not a boat in a basement. There's a double swing door that goes in there, and
If Gibbs can get it out, you can get it out.
we should be able, there's a double door going in there, and it comes out to the garage bays, so we should be able to get it out of there.
But you're going to put it on a pad outside the building? The new
Yeah,
one?
there'll be a pad outside the building with bollards, there'll be conduits run to probably new switchgear, because I believe the switchgear is indoors, and it's supposed to be outdoors, the automatic switchgear, so it could be accessed by FD if they need to.
So Scott, if I can ask you a couple other questions. NFPA has standards for PM and testing of the generators. Does your facility people do that?
No, we have Bigelow.
But they follow the
Big
NFPA
Power.
standards,
They do.
annual standards?
Yep, every year they test, they load test all the generators, they maintain them all. We do our own filters and oils. We don't need them to do that. But they do the annual testing, that way it's
But you do
certified.
a load testing?
Yeah.
The load testing, okay. And one other question, one follow-up question. You mentioned switchgear. My background was electrical, did a lot of these generators.
Okay.
You gonna put a transfer switch outside in case this thing fails, or when you do testing?
Yep.
You can plug in your generator?
Yeah, we have a three-way transfer switch there now. So it's line power, generator power, tow-behind generator power. One of the challenges with a tow-behind generator is we have three different power types from the three different buildings.
Yeah, well,
It's not uncommon. This building's a weird one.
you gotta be able to swap them.
Yep.
Well,
Answer my question, thank you very much.
I'm not an electrician, but I'm married to one, so I just want to know, what is the power source to this generator? Is it propane outside? What is it?
This would be either natural gas or propane. I got to clarify that with the building inspector because there are certain code compliance changes that have occurred. One of the concerns, and I believe the fire station has addressed this, is that when you have a natural gas fired generator, natural gas is not as reliable as propane. You can lose natural gas, just like you can lose anything else. If you have a road go out, it takes the power lines out, it takes the gas line out too.
Is this cost for the fuel, for propane or whatever?
Yes, this is the higher
included
cost.
in this?
99% of the generators you can switch from one to the other. I need to make sure that it's compliant. The cost to bring in the gas line to this generator location would be offset by the propane tank, and vice versa, so.
So is that cost included in this?
Yes.
In this number that you
Yes,
have
it
here?
is.
It is,
Yes, it
okay.
is. Yep.
All right.
Natural
Okay.
gas is actually more expensive to bring
All
in.
right.
Propane's less expensive.
If nobody has any other questions on this, through the chair, I know that you have postponed a couple of other items.
Well, I actually do have a couple more
Okay,
questions on this one.
But just, may I just say, can we, at least after he asks his questions, go back and explain to us what's going on here with 4 Main Street?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
So this generator is exclusively for the police station building, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What's the sizing of the generator?
I don't know, we haven't sized it, we haven't hired an electrical engineer to size it yet or design it.
Okay.
You need money for that. We don't-
And, yeah, again, breakdown of the cost of equipment versus installation. I just look at a $345,000 price tag for a generator for, the draw of power that a building of that size would take, and I'm struggling to,
I'll have to hire somebody to get that.
yeah.
You want me to
so-
hire somebody to do that?
Well, I'm just.
I mean, that's how I get it.
How did we get?
We're not electrical engineers here, and I don't have the.
Scott, you're gonna be matching the generator that's there, right?
Yes.
So what's the existing generator size?
Okay, I can provide that to you, but breaking out the labor versus the cost versus the materials, I'm not electrical
Yeah, so,
estimator.
well, this number came from somewhere, so that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes, we got it from our facility condition assessment software. And I got a quote from a electrical engineer, Siemens Electrical.
So they could give a breakdown of
I
what
can,
the
I can
costs.
I can give you the quote.
And does that quote come with a
I'll
breakdown?
I'll have to look at it. I'm not sure how we did the quote. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I can give you just the quote.
Well, we can back into it, I guess. Once we understand what the sizing of the equipment is, then we can, that's publicly available.
Would
We
you
can
like me to
figure out-
provide quotes on all these rather than us go through every single one of them and ask for the quote? I could just
If you
send you.
got them, sure.
Yeah, if you have
Makes it
quotes-
easy.
I'll send every quote to the committee.
Yeah.
Good, thank you, Scott.
I think it's a really good idea, because when we're at town meeting, people stand up and they ask all these kinds of questions, so it's better to have had this information.
There's
to
nothing
begin with.
hidden. I got everything here. I don't want to go through every line item. I mean, it's a 4-page quote on a truck, but I'm happy to email them out to everybody.
Well, understanding a breakdown of what that number comes from, when we look at $345,000, I'd like to know what percentage of that is equipment and what percentage of that is labor.
I don't know if they broke it out that way. I'm a civil engineer. When I estimate things, I don't break it out that way.
Okay, all right.
That's
Well-
not how civil engineers do
well,
it.
you know, the taxpayers
Architects do it
deserve to
differently than
understand.
electrical engineers, and they do it differently
Sure.
than civils.
Well, that's fine, but, you know, the taxpayers deserve to understand how their money's being spent.
Taxpayers can have it all right out.
So when I usually gave my quotes, it was a bottom line.
Yeah.
I didn't break out labor, I didn't break out material. This is the cost, and that's it.
Yeah, no,
Because I didn't want to get nitpicked
Yeah.
about, oh, well, can you save a little money if you do this?
Yeah.
We never did that.
and that's fine. I mean, I'm just looking at $345,000 for a generator. I mean, you used to do electrical,
I think that's in line for what the jobs I did,
yeah, so.
especially based on the market
Again,
now.
thank you for saying that, because
Yeah.
that's exactly what's going to happen. When a detailed line item quote goes out, somebody's going to come out with a red pen and say, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want that, and then our fleet is now designed by the general public.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because they're the ones who buy it. I'm okay with that.
Susan,
We'll do F-150s.
good question?
In regard to the generator? No,
Oh, a follow-on. A follow-on from no?
not for generator, no.
Okay, next question.
I would love if we could go back to 4 West Main Street and explain, you've had this in here, this is expensive stuff, and we haven't heard anything from the select board yet on when they're planning to try to put this out for bid. So will we be able to get another year or two out of this building without doing this work if we don't get this thing sold?
I would say up to town meeting, we will put out the RFP.
So we get we had the roof walked recently. We have our roofs inspected every year. We have spot repairs done on the roofs every year in accordance with what the inspections find. They're working on they just finished some work on the library. I believe 4 West Main Street is next. They did work on Town Hall. You may have been in Town Hall last week and saw the ladder down. The ladder was down because we had our roof contractor up there doing repairs. 4 West Main Street roof is being repaired. It leaks. It leaks every single year, and we repair it. Sometimes it's a loose scupper that we go up there and we fill the voids. Sometimes we have to have a roofing contractor go up there and do the work.
What's the square footage of that roof
I don't
that's
know.
being replaced?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'd like to know that information.
So is it the same with the facade?
The flat roof, the angled roofs, the
That-
tile roofs, which
that-
roof?
That would be replaced. That's
Okay.
being contemplated for the $375,000. Everything else wouldn't be germane to it, I don't believe, right?
Okay.
And will it be the same for the facade? You're just doing repair work as you're going along?
No, we do a little bit of it, like basically pick it up, but we don't have the lift capacity to go up and fix the fascia board, nor is it worth it. I mean, the fascia board is completely rotted. If it looks like it's gonna fall and hurt someone, we'll do what we can to take it down. But I don't believe there's anything up there to repair it. If the fascia is that rotted, the tails on the joists are probably 10 times worse.
Have there been any estimates of what the value would be of 4 West Main if we were to sell it?
Yep,
What are the estimates?
negligible.
To sell it, we
Yeah,
would
yeah,
get,
yep, it was in the town office's feasibility study.
so how much, what's negligible? 100,000, 1 million, 2 million?
Not a lot.
Well, I understand.
I mean, that's what it
negligible,
was.
but
It
Will
was-
we
it
get the
wa-
10 grand back?
It was grade C to D rental space with no dedicated parking.
So the valuation, do you know what that was, Stephanie, for
They
what?
didn't,
What they anticipated the sale price would be of that property?
They didn't do an assessment.
No.
They just evaluated it on its potential reuse.
So, Mr. Chair, these items have been postponed, so not relevant to what we're doing now.
Correct.
Can we move the conversation?
I can, just so that you don't get too aggravated. It's important to just know where we're going with this building. Because
Well, 100%.
can't put it off forever.
100%.
Oh, I have no intention.
Okay.
We wanted to zone in on White Cliffs and then following town meeting, go right to 4 West Main.
Yeah.
If you remember, appropriations, financial planning, and select board already met regarding the RFP and what we wanted in it, so we have everything ready to go. We just are, we didn't want to juggle too many things.
I don't have that, Mike. The square
And I
footage,
think
sorry.
the point there is that, postpone means, it's postponed, doesn't mean it's disappeared, that it's not gonna be brought up again. And the question is, that's quite obvious, I think, is if the valuation of the building is negligible and it's $10,000 or what have you, which I think it's probably just north of that, but regardless, for us to even contemplate spending, $1.2 million on something that's worth nothing, why would we do that? Why would we even consider that?
That's why it's pushed off.
Well, I guess,
That's why we push it off, because we don't know what's gonna happen to the
I
property.
just
and-
want to bring it to everybody's
Yeah.
attention. We need to get that solved.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of maintenance money there, with the sump pumps, the elevator. The building was in disrepair for a long time. There's probably a reason why the prior owner only occupied the first floor. Obviously, there's got to be reasons for that. So we spend quite a bit of time and money there, keeping it conditioned and functional for the one tenant.
But I think Mike's point is a good one, right? You don't put $1.3 million into a building that's worth
10 grand.
$50,000.
Absolutely not.
Never mind the fact we
yeah,
don't want
I
to
just
put
don't,
anything
I can't
into
even
it.
get my head around why it was ever even on there.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
all right.
You just can't keep pushing it off.
Okay.
Sounds like the lot's worth more than the building at this point. so.
Yeah.
How much to tear it down?
Next item, roadway improvements.
One-ton truck, I believe, or is it roadway next? Roadway improvements,
Roadways
okay.
next.
All right. This is a
And actually, I'm sorry, Scott, just another curiosity, just purely for comparison purposes, the roof of the town office, that's this building here, I know that's postponed as well. Do we have the square footage of this? I kind of ballparked the measurement of the size of the building, just looking at it comparatively of 920,000 compared to 8 million. I'm just kind of curious how those measure up to each other.
So you're looking for the size of this?
Yeah, size of this building, and I could
No, we have that.
pace it out
We have that.
to figure out the math.
Did I hear it publicly said that this was put off because you're doing some more HVAC on the roof, or is that complete?
So we're pursuing 2 grants. One has already been submitted. They're both green community, well, one's a green communities grant, one is a decarbonization grant. The one we just submitted is green communities. It's to insulate the attic space here at Town Hall. Current insulation in the attic is 0. There is no roof insulation. And there is a 3.5-foot crawl space between the ceiling joists here and the roof rafters above. Before we do the HVAC improvements, and by HVAC, V is very important in that, but the HVAC improvements to Town Hall, it's important for us to get the insulation done in the attic space, and it's also important to do that before we do the roof. I don't want to do the roof and then do the insulation in the event they need to go through the roof to get some pockets that they can't physically get to, because it's 3.5 feet space. So if they can't get to a spot, they may have to pop a hole. Don't
They
want
have
to
a
do that.
critical path.
Yeah, you don't want to do that exactly. You time things appropriately. Once the installation is done with that grant, we are then eligible for another $500,000 grant for decarbonization to replace the HVAC system in the building. We'll have a better grasp of what benefits the HVAC system will provide to the town, because we will have had a year of insulation in the attic. One of the considerations we have to make with the HVAC work is where the units are set. If we're going to set them on the roof, we want to do the roof before we do that. If we're not going to set them on the roof, maybe we can postpone that for a while. After we take the equipment that's currently on the roof off, we'll have a better idea what the condition of the roof is. Maybe it only needs an overlayment. We don't know. So I just want to put one step in front of the other.
Okay,
and-
so you have a
and take-
thoughtful plan, but what do you think, it's in the next year? Do you think really you'll be moving on a roof next year?
I think it'll be probably 3 years out.
So it's really not going to be postponed to fiscal year
I
28?
think it'll be pushed out another year. So we'll get the insulation done if we get awarded this summer, so that's summer of '26. '27, we look to do the HVAC work if we get awarded. And then hopefully '28, we could, if need be, do the roof. So that's my thought.
Would you do me a favor and work closely with him about what you think that number really is going to be in the capital plan, so that when he does all his magic figuring out when we can spend money, he's got the right date?
So what we do is when we get, in the facilities particularly, when we see projects on the horizon, we utilize the facility condition assessment report that we have, and it'll say what the asset is, what the age is, what the new value of it is, the replacement cost. The FCA replacement costs are not even close to accurate. They're not based on prevailing wage rates, nor do they include any soft costs. For example, this building soft cost would probably be temporary space conditioning. If you were to do carpets, it would be relocating of furniture back and forth and the likes. So we have a 2.5 multiplier from the facilities condition assessment number to get to these numbers in here. As it comes up to the fiscal year, that's when we get a more detailed number. It's not worth, if I was to go to an architect and say, I want you to give me a good cost estimate for a roof replacement in 4 years, they'd either say pay me or laugh at me, but one of the two things, and we'd have to pay for them.
So if we wrote a report and we made a recommendation that this be postponed at least till fiscal 29, you wouldn't have a problem with that?
Not at all. I'm happy to push it off before this thing gets finally, finalized and published, or
Okay,
what have you.
thank you.
I'm happy.
Thanks for all the grant work.
Yep, nope, always trying to help.
Roadway, Scott?
Yep. So this has been a standing capital item for quite some time. We recently started escalating it for current future dollar values. It's always been $300,000 for several years. I'll go through the same spiel relatively quickly that I do at town meeting. We get about $500,000 of Chapter 90 money. There's $300,000 in the operating budget for paving, and then we request $300,000 of capital for paving every year. That brings us to $1.1 million. And the graphic here is pretty tough to see. $1.1 million investment brings us to about level. The blue line you see on that graph is a $1.1 million investment. The green one is less $300,000, meaning either reduce capital or reduce operating. And the red one is just Chapter 90. So our goal is to maintain our current roadway condition. The numbers you see there are like grades in school. We're like a C+ as our roads, and we've kind of hovered around there for quite some time. The cost of paving has gone up. The governor was generous with her Fair Share Act this current fiscal year, FY26, and Chapter 90, which has historically been $200 million bonding every year. This year, FY26, she went forward with $300 million. So instead of $500,000, we received $750,000 out of Chapter 90 money.
How often is the PCI updated?
Annually. Every other year is a projection, every other year is a physical inspection. We inspect every single road every other year. The years in between, it's just a projection.
So that's a self-evaluation?
No, we have a consultant do that.
For the roadway improvements, is there a linear measurement of roadway that's improved based on that amount of spend?
Our goal and objective is to touch 10% of our roads every year. We have 80 miles of road, so our goal is to touch 8 miles a year with a variety of treatments. Sometimes we're doing like a full pavement like you saw on Davis Street. If we do a full pavement like Davis Street, because we're a complete streets community, we've committed to the community to do the sidewalks, which we did on Davis. Sometimes we'll do a lighter treatment like a mill and overlay, which we did on Sunset and Rustic. We committed to that neighborhood to do that after we in-house replaced all their iron water service saddles with copper, so that's been taken care of. Then we milled and overlaid those roads. Other roads, we'll do a surface treatment, a bonded wearing course. We did that on Riley Road and Fernbrook and in that neighborhood. Those roads, you do a crack seal, then you put a 3/4 inch layer of asphalt on it. It's much less costly, and it extends the life of the road. And then we'll also do crack seal. Roads that maybe we paved 6, 8 years ago and it's starting to crack, we'll crack seal those to prevent water intrusion. The vast majority of the mileage is crack seal because it's affordable. The lesser mileage is full reconstruction like Davis Street. And we do have a capital improvement plan that's developed by the same consultant who does the pavement condition assessment. And that capital improvement plan is not a static document. He doesn't give it to us and we just close our eyes and go do it. We look at regionality. I want to touch all sorts of different parts of town so everybody gets a little piece of the pie, and it's not, spend 4 years doing all of Northgate. That's not fair. And there's other considerations when it comes to other infrastructure projects.
I have to say, when you came and you did our neighborhood, which isn't much of a neighborhood because it's pretty rural up there, it was very nice to have the
thank you.
roads redone. Thank you.
We're hoping to get to Ball Street this year, this coming year.
And Scott, that report is online, so you can go street by street to see what the report card is for that street and when it was touched last.
Yep, the pavement condition assessment's there, the recommended treatment's there. Yep, it's all there. Same thing with the sidewalks. We have a sidewalk condition report as well, and it's got a capital plan in it.
Thank you.
Do we have any kind of cost per mile benchmarking as it compares to other peer towns?
Cost per mile, what is that? What are you referring to?
Well, for when we're doing, it's difficult when, there's a scattering of various, needs, patchwork versus, just complete reconditioning of roadway. But in terms of measuring the value that we're getting from the current vendors as it compares to, a benchmark of other vendors that other towns are using.
We competitively bid this work out. We can't just sole source it.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
So we award it to the lowest responsive bidder. The estimates that we prepare before bidding are relatively conservative. Every 2 to 4 years, I go through and reevaluate the square yard estimate values. I just did that like 2 months ago. Our estimates are still a little conservative, which is good. The cost was coming in about $42 a square yard for full reconstruction on Davis Street, and our estimate we carry is $45. So the numbers are fair and reasonable. They're less than Mass DOT's numbers. Every single Mass DOT project their unit prices are online. Mass DOT average weighted bid prices, look them up. The price per ton, square yard of concrete, it's all in there. There is no per mile number because if it has manholes, it's more expensive. If it has curbing, it's more expensive. If it's rural and it's on Ball Street, it's less expensive. If it's 20 feet wide, that's less expensive than barefoot. That's 32 feet wide. So there's really no...
Measured by cubic feet or something.
Yeah, square yards is what I just described. Yep. So we're right where I expect us to
And you used a very
be.
different material up our way, and it fits in just fine.
Yeah, yep.
The neighborhood.
I'm just,
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm just concerned with some projects that I've seen. For example, you mentioned, Susan, last week about the granite curbing and how expensive that is. Across from the water park, I don't know what the name of that street is. Gale Street, it kind of curves around. I just noticed when the cement sidewalk was done there, there's granite on both the left and right side of that. And I've never seen that before ever, where you've used granite curbing. And, there's other projects in town that I've seen where just, there's costs associated with
that work. I know that we're working with, getting bids, but I guess I'm concerned in that bid process and, how they're being selected and I guess justification for things like using granite on both sides of a sidewalk and.
So that granite, the sidewalk there with the granite was as directed by the planning director and the downtown revitalization master plan implementation group or what have you. They want granite and concrete throughout the downtown. I'm not in favor of doing granite everywhere. It's far too expensive. A linear foot of granite curbing is $65. A linear foot of asphalt curbing is $7.50. That's why when we get to the Assabet Hill neighborhood, where the conversation will come up again. That project was specific to the planning director in that the downtown area, they want concrete and granite. If you look at the Complete Streets applications and grant awards, they're granite and concrete on Blake and Pierce. That was what was desired. That was what was presented to the select board. That was what was appropriated by the select board with ARPA funds. The question about how we're awarding is we award to the lowest responsive bidder in accordance with Chapter 3039M Mass Procurement Law. We don't have another choice. I can't just go out to, Susan Contracting and say, can you put in some granite curbing for me? I can do that up to $10,000, but I can't do that for $250,000. It is bid out in accordance with the law, awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. If the contractor is not performing the way we expect and not meeting the expectations, we can refuse to renew their contract. Our contracts for paving are bid out 1 year with 2 1-year options to renew by the town. We had a contractor 4 years ago that we bid out and we awarded. They did Emerson and Thoreau. We were not very happy with the outcome. They didn't come back the next year, so we bid it out the next year. The contractor that we have right now has been doing great work. We're very happy with the product and the quality, so we chose to renew their contract.
It just shocked me to see granite on yard side of the sidewalk.
That was because of the slope. That was specific for the slope. That was not a decorative feature or what have you. That was because of the back slope.
And this was ARPA funded, is that what
Correct.
you're saying?
That was ARPA funded. Yep.
Do you have plans for sidewalks, kind of the way you do for roads in different parts of
Yes.
town? Okay.
Yep, we have.
That would be appropriate area for granite?
The goal of the Master Plan Implementation Committee was to have concrete and granite in the downtown area.
Okay.
Where the limit of that is, I'm guessing it's like River Street to Westbrook maybe, or Monroe, I don't know. It's in that area, and it's certainly Gale and Monroe. Maybe it goes out to Monument, I don't know where it is.
All right, thanks.
I think it stops at Monument if you go in that far.
Probably.
Far west, but yeah.
Yep, and we have a sidewalk management plan that's online, very similar to pavement management plan. We have our sidewalk condition index across the town. We inventoried every sidewalk, the material, the curbing material, the conditions, wheelchair ramps, we know where all those are. The sidewalk management plan is similar to pavement management. It's reconstructing existing. It's not gap closure. We did some gap closure analysis with the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan.
I know we're getting off topic, but I do want to say that I saw many of the meetings that you had to attend when these kinds of discussions took place, and you were never recommending that granite was the best option and way to go. But
I took a lot
that's
of
the way it ended up.
I took a lot of conversations when we redid Stratton Way and Warren Drive with Pidconk after they had granite. That was a.
Do you know just I know Whitney Street was recently paved, and now the bridge is out and needs to be repaired. Do you know if they're going to leave the asphalt and all the work is done underneath, or is that going to be torn up and then have to be?
They're going to have a new deck. They'll have a whole new deck. That bridge is going to. I'd be surprised if we drive over that bridge before 2030.
Okay.
Yikes.
Very surprised.
So, Scott, is there more on drainage and sidewalk improvements?
Not really. I mean, it's a standing item. I want to spend money on sidewalks. The question, and I'm going to be before the select board on the January 12th to talk about sidewalks. This last town meeting, this article went through, and we had culvert failures on Howard Street and Church Street. Instead of doing an open cut and full replacement, we chose to do a cured-in-place pipe treatment, which it was about 50 cents on the dollar. So as opposed to just cutting the road open, putting a new pipe in, we went through a lot of work and a lot of effort in order to have a cured-in-place pipe approach taken. And the result was we had $170,000 savings. So I'm going to the select board on the 12th. I'm going to have a list of sidewalk gaps that are desired to be closed, and to see if they want to fund some of the design services. Constructing a new sidewalk is complicated. You have right-of-way issues, you have utility pole issues, and then you have drainage issues. If you imagine, one of the gaps, and this is going to be, I don't need to go too long, but one of the gaps is Davis Street from Lanthorn to, I think it's Hamilton, around the Thayer curve. So you come out of Indian Meadow, you go across the street, there's no sidewalk. So you can't walk from Indian Meadow into Northgate to get to Proctor. So that section of sidewalk, if you picture the roadway on that side, the roadway's dead flat, the lawns are dead flat, the whole thing is flat. There's no closed drainage there. So what do you do when you put a sidewalk there? You put a curb in. You raise the edge of the roadway, or the shoulder, 4 to 6 inches. Well, your front lawn used to have a very gradual slope that went from your foundation toward the road very slowly, and water went where it went, in the gutter and eventually evaporated, what have you. Now you're going to have a 6-inch wall there. So you're going to have a big puddle in the front of your yard where water used to run into the road, and now it runs into a little hill where the sidewalk is. So you've got to address the neighbors' concerns with it. And now you have the same issue on the roadway side. You have a curb where the road water used to be able to just go to the gutter line and just dissipate. Now it has to go somewhere. So you put catch basins in. Well, now you're introducing a new point discharge. So you need to have water quality treatment. Well, you got to discharge the water onto Ken's property. Now I need a discharge easement. So closing gaps is challenging. We have a gap on River Street. That's not that bad. There's closed drainage already there. There's positive slope running from Main Street toward Hudson. And that's a relatively, all the utility poles are on one side, so there's room on the other side. The right-of-way happens to be pretty adequately spaced on the other side, so that's an easy gap to close. So that's what I'm going to talk to the select board about. You know, I don't want to recommend that they spend lots of design money on Davis and find out it's crazy money to construct when you can do River Street. That's relatively easy. And it closes a nice loop for people walking around the downtown.
When you're having that conversation, I don't know where Maple Street fits in any of this, but just take in mind that I just saw lovely drawings done by the architect for the Peasley School. And granted, they're conceptual, but there were lots of different ways that they were thinking of making a driveway into that property. So when you guys have to start working on Maple Street, ask what they're doing.
Yep, we have Maple Street designed. I actually had a pre-permitting meeting this afternoon with the conservation agent. It's a great project for Safe Routes to Schools. It's a Mass DOT grant program that does exactly what it sounds like, Safe Routes to Schools. Get kids to schools walking and biking safely. They generally fund projects in the $1 to $3 million range. That's probably what Maple Street is, and they only fund shovel-ready projects. Though that grant program, though, is spearheaded by the school districts, not the municipality. We have to sign on, like the select board has to sign on as supporting it, but the school is the driving factor for it.
Okay, so there'll be a lot of conversations about what's going to happen there, because I'd hate to have you put down granite curbing and have it all
Yeah.
back up again.
Pine Haven was another gap we're looking at to try to get the Lincoln Street and Melican school kids to the Times Square area safely. It's a good cut-through road. You know, it's got similar challenges that I described earlier, but not topographic. That would be another good Safe Routes to School program. So.
Okay.
So if I may, Scott, I want to bring up a point that you said a few minutes ago, that you had a drainage structure that you came up with an innovative way to repair the drainage, and it costs less money. So you're not always trying to spend to the dollar. As you're going along, you're trying to find inventive ways to reduce the cost and save money.
The easiest way to do it would
And
have been.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The easiest way to do it is to hire an engineer and say, fix the culvert, and
Yeah.
2 years later, you've got a whole, I'd rather just spend the money quickly and efficiently and
Yeah.
utilize it elsewhere.
Okay. Next item,
Yep.
1 ton with a repurpose.
Yes. So we're replacing, so again, I'd indicated earlier, we cycle our vehicles down through the fleet. So what you see here is our current utility body that serves mostly the cemetery. It's an F-350 single wheel. It's in good shape. That's not the one we're trading in. We're proposing to trade in a 2012 F-350, which is a single wheel. The 2012 is going to have a little over 7,200 hours at the time of trade-in. To put that in perspective, police cruisers are generally in the 6,500 to 7,000 hours, so this will exceed that. Hours are what you look at on these vehicles, not necessarily miles. You know, these vehicles don't go on vacation to the Cape and to the mountains skiing. They're buzzing around town, so they don't get a lot of miles, but they get a lot of hours. One of the struggles with this vehicle, if it was going to be a direct replacement for the cemetery, is that our cemetery, we utilize a mini excavator to excavate at the cemetery. This vehicle can't tow it. Doesn't have the towing capacity to do it. If it was a dual rear wheel F-350, it would have that capacity. So what we're essentially doing is replacing this vehicle with one of the same body, just with dual wheels in the back, so it can pull the excavator. It's cumbersome because you got to take two trucks to the cemetery, because this one has all the burial equipment in it, and the other one is pulling the excavator, and then you take it off and you leave. It's just an inefficient way to do things. We will then take this vehicle that you see here, take the body off of it, and put a lift gate on it. So we take a very old 350, take the flatbed off of it. It's just a wooden flatbed. It's like the last existence of a truck at DPW. We trade that in. We take this one. We take the utility body off, put a lift gate on it, repurpose it for that, and then get a replacement for this that has dual wheels. The one we're trading in, the 2012, is a lot of these diesels are doing that. It's losing power. The heads need to be replaced. It's got power issues. I don't know what more than the top end is an issue. You really can't tell whether the bottom end is problematic till you get into it. But we're confident the top end is the primary cause of power loss.
Could you elaborate a bit more on that? What specifically in the top end?
The heads, the heads are leaking.
So it has a
I
head
think
gasket issue, so you're getting coolant in your oil?
Yeah, you get blow-by on it, and I'm not a diesel mechanic, but that's what my mechanic is telling me, and you could tell there's a power difference between the one we're trading in.
Strawberry milkshake.
Yeah, it's not good when you get to that point. Yeah, I would definitely dump that.
So,
Yeah, you lose everything.
Yeah.
Seizes up, you're not gonna have a good time.
So Scott, you're working on 2 trucks? Is that?
yeah, and we do that when we get new vehicles, not necessarily equipment, but vehicles, we'll always do that. So last year, we got the an F600, which is basically an F550 with a little more, an extra leaf spring, basically. We got one of those, and we got a hot box. But we're not putting a hot box, which is one of the most disgusting pieces of things you're ever going to put on a truck. We're not going to put that on a brand-new $140,000, F550 or F600. You put that on one of the older ones, the oldest one, because it's a pretty abusive and corrosive environment. That's the one that goes out and patches roads. That's the one that's got the coal patch in it. Costs a little bit of money to repurpose, because you got to send it out to have them pull a body off of one and put it on another. But I don't know, it's just the right thing to do.
So you're purchasing one vehicle and repurposing another?
Correct. Yep, and they work their way down through the fleet.
I would change your heading a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the way I read that, it's one truck and you're going to repurpose it.
Oh,
You-
okay.
You're buying a truck and then you're repurposing another truck,
I
right?
gotcha, yep.
Yeah, you have to read
makes sense.
into it. to
Yeah,
see
I read that, but then I'm
Yeah.
going at the heading, and I'm looking back and forth, and I don't
It's
understand
one of
what's
those things
going
you
on.
read in your mind,
Yeah,
it makes
no, I
complete sense
understand.
until you put it down.
I do it all the time. I understand, I
That's a good
fully
point, Ken,
understand.
thank
How
you.
much do we pay to have someone else swap a body out? Because pickup truck beds are pretty easy to take on and off. I mean, I can do it in my driveway.
Yeah, the,
Well, now we know where we're going.
yeah,
Want to?
He's like, I'll do it.
I got a chain pulley
I'd have to take a look. It's probably $30,000 maybe,
for the, to buy the
You'll
bed
do
and
it
put
for
it on?
15.
I'm gonna guess.
Perfect.
Good for a bottle of Jack.
I know, right? Use it by the end, I'll need someone else to plug the wires back in.
I have it,
And that's just to move it, not to actually get the bed, or is that including the
that
cost
that
of?
includes the bed.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Let's see, F-350 repurposed. 38.4, which includes, I mean, I can go through it all. It's the aluminum
Okay.
platform body with the conversion hoist mount on a Towed supplied cabin chassis with reinforced headboard, extended, I mean, I'll email this over to you.
Okay, no, that sounds
Dual
good.
wall aluminum side drop downs, aluminum ladder, recessed mounting rings, lighting, and, because once you take all the lights off, you gotta put all new lights on. Light box, hydraulics in the cab to use a dump body, so, yeah, I'll email these two so you can take a look at them.
No, that sounds good. And
Pretty
then,
detailed.
in terms of, so it's set up for a dump body, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get any discount through Ford or anyone for not actually having to have a truck with a bed?
Yeah, we buy the chassis naked, bedless, yeah, all of them come that way. Yeah,
Okay.
you can get one, you know, if you, you can order them with the bed, like we just ordered a 350 from last year. It's superintendent's truck, so it's, that comes with the bed. These, worker trucks, so to speak, the specialized trucks, they're generally outfitted either at, a third-party outfitter, or you go through the chassis vendor. The chassis vendors tend to be a little more expensive on the outfit, because they feel like you're a captured audience. So we go to a specialized outfitter, and we usually get better pricing.
I have a question, just in your narrative here. This is more than the average for police cruisers at the time of their trade-in. Why do we have that in there?
Because I'm always being referred to as trading in vehicles because they have low mileage. Why are you trading this truck? It's only got 68,000. Well, it's got 8,500 hours on it.
Okay, but,
Diesel versus gas,
but
too.
in
though.
all honesty, you know, kind of the evaluation on the police cruisers is because of the idling time. So, of why the wear and tear. I know it probably bothers you that people do that comparison and stuff, but you know what bothers me more? I hate to pit departments against one another, and to me, that just seems.
I'll remove it.
Yeah.
Ours
If you
is the
would,
same thing.
please, 'cause I know you all get along real well.
Ours is the
Sharon.
same thing as the idle time. I mean, we, you know,
Thank you.
we forego equipment purchases as well and push them off, just like PD does.
Yeah, and it's not really comparing apples to apples, you know?
Why is there, I understand idle time with the police cruisers. I guess I'm not understanding why it would be an equivalent amount of idle time, if that's what I heard correctly, for DPW vehicles.
Well, we have the hot box on the back, the vehicle needs to idle. We have a bucket truck, the vehicle needs to idle for the hydraulics. Anytime there's a hydraulic system on it, the vehicle needs to idle.
Okay, but for these vehicles, these aren't, that's neither a bucket truck nor a hot box. So why is there so much idle time
Well,
with these vehicles?
The one that's being traded in has gone through 3 different life cycles, so it has a very high idle time. I can look back on what its life was previously, but as a flatbed, it doesn't idle much. As a diesel flatbed, as a diesel dump body, it idled a lot. You know, you go to pick up trash, you're gonna leave it idling. You're not gonna shut your diesel off, get out, pick up the trash, 20 minutes, 40 minutes later, get back in there. Same thing in the wintertime. You know, in the wintertime, if you're out snow blowing and shoveling, that truck is gonna sit in the parking lot and idle. You're not gonna shut it
Okay, so
off.
if it's idling, then put in there why it's idling and how it does the wear and tear on it.
Sure.
That would be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Just to point out, page 3, I believe, in this report, there's the inventory of 29 vehicles, the make, the model, year acquired, mileage, et cetera, et cetera. So that inventory is in here.
folks.
In looking at that, or in not looking at that at the moment, is there another vehicle that's similar to what would fulfill the necessity of this vehicle that's being purchased? Is it the dual wheels that's the,
The dual wheel helps, the dual wheel allows our cemetery supervisor to move the equipment they need to do a burial, the excavator. The vehicle you see in the picture cannot do that because it's a single wheel. Other than that, it's other than the towing capacity and the payload capacity, it's the same vehicle. We do not have another cab. That's the only cab vehicle we have.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the 350 dual wheel versus a 450? 450 should be able to tow the Mini still,
Yes.
but have you looked at a price difference just to see if it would maybe be cheaper for a 450 than a dual wheel 350?
I did not look at that. All of our 450s, well, we've gone to 550s everywhere just because they're more versatile. We did not price out I don't even know if they have 450 single wheels. The 450 dual wheel would be a little bit more. It's not a huge price difference, really, going to 350 to 450. Going from 450 to 600 is a big difference. I'm happy to price out a 450 instead of a 350, just, it's gonna be a little bit more, that's all.
Do you think it's even worth considering doing the head work on this thing and then maybe using this for the $100,000 van that we talked about in the beginning?
We could look at doing an engine, well, yeah, I could look at the price of that and then trying to outfit it with a utility body, enclosed utility body. I'd want to have it take the back taken off and the frame sandblasted and re-welded. It still wouldn't be able to pull the excavator, so we'd still have that problem with the cemetery, but it would help out with the facilities. So we could I mean, I don't know what the dollar value would be. I could find out what it would be to refurbish a 2012 to be utilized for the facilities division. If it's gonna be 60 grand to spend on a 2012. I mean,
Yeah, no, if
you know
it's
what I
that
mean?
much, I don't think it makes sense, but if it could be 10.
Yeah, I mean, I hate this, I don't want to say, I don't use the term frame off, but, you know, when we refurbished our 99 catch basin truck, you know, they stripped that down to the frame, they sandblasted it, cleaned it, re-welded all the pit weld, or did a bucket load of pit welds, and then painted it and put it back together. So that's probably what's warranted. I'm happy to see what the cost is for that, though.
Yeah, just thinking. Okay.
Just another kind of different thought there, though. So currently, the facilities van, the guy's going to different ones. Is there one that we could just dedicate to him and put a utility body on that isn't this one with the blown heads? Because I think 2012 was one of the worst years of Ford Power
Yeah,
Stroke
8 to
diesels.
12, those diesels just.
Was that the 6.4 or something?
Yeah, just throw them away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could look at another repurpose. Yeah, let me look at the fleet and see if there's a way that this 350 that's in the photograph, instead of being converted to a lift gate, could be converted to something usable for the facilities division. Good. That makes a little more sense, because this is a 2019. Even if the 12 was a decent engine, or let's say it was a V10 gas, I still wouldn't, that's a lot of money
If there's
to,
a 7.3 Power Stroke, I tell you to refurbish it.
yeah.
Be good for the next 600,000.
So we're talking about that maybe you won't need your first item that you,
I'll see, I'll look through the fleet schedule and see if it makes sense to modify the truck in the photograph to be utilized for facilities.
okay? Nice job, Scott. Nice job.
Okay.
Scott, Assabet Hill.
Assabet Hill, yeah, not a light lift. We've been here, I've been before you to speak about this in the past. Was that my
A
check?
gentleman paid his bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, that's not my check. It's all yours. So Assabet Hill was a subdivision constructed during the housing boom, and it wasn't constructed well. I don't know if anybody's have driven up Assabet Hill, Liberty, Patriot.
I went up there just at lunchtime today.
Fun
I've
ride.
been up there before, but went up again to take a close look, yeah.
And when it-
I went.
Bunch of
when you
small
were-
cul-de-sacs
Yep.
as you go up and are over the top.
that we, it suffered from several sinkholes back in 2018, large sinkholes. These were, Volkswagen-sized sinkholes. After the third one popped up, and the road just was completely heaving beyond belief, and then we had a lot of sinkage around the catch basins and the manholes. We did a video inspection of all the pipes up there. Every single linear foot of sewer and water and drainage was inspected. There's a systemic drainage pipe failure up there. I believe the vast majority of it is due to poor compaction. The failures are generally where the pipe comes out of the structure being manhole or catch basin. When it's not compacted well around a structure, the pipe will settle. When the pipe settles, the bell breaks. When the bell breaks, soil gets washed into the pipe, and then it propagates potholes and sinkholes. We have a full map and evaluation of the entire system, identifying where every defect is. The $1.8 million is not a complete drainage replacement. It's, for lack of a better term, spot repair, but it's a massive amount of repairs. It's not, fix this 10 feet of pipe and then move 20 feet. It's take care of the 40 feet, but then move 80 feet away and do another 20 feet. The problem is going to persist. It's not going to stop. I would like to evaluate further with our engineers on whether a cured-in-place pipe solution may be more cost-effective. Our engineers went through from the video inspection, took the next step, and did a preliminary design, laid out where the repairs need to be, put together a construction cost estimate. There are two finishing components of the construction cost estimate. You'll get that when I send out all the quotes. Again, it's not a quote, it's an estimate. One is replacing all of the sloped granite edging with asphalt curb. And then you lose the grass strip, you put the sidewalk right behind the asphalt curb. That's the most cost-effective approach. One of the issues with this subdivision that we have in many, many others, Little Pond has the same problem, Hemlock has the same problem, Stratton Way had the same problem, slope granite edging. Slope granite edging is not a good road edge treatment in subdivisions. It's not granite curbing. Slope granite edging, if you go down in the Little Pond area, you'll see grass growing in the road. It's just not the right gutter treatment. So we're proposing asphalt curbing. If it was to be granite curbing, the price would be from $1.8 million. I think it goes up to like $2.3 million. So it's another $500,000 for granite. The work needs to be done. How it gets funded, when it gets done, I don't know. I'm just here to let you know what the needs are.
Brian?
Just kind of two things really quick. One, the pipe treatment that you talked about here in place, like, if you could get us an estimate or like talk to someone and give us like a better idea if that's possible, that'd be greatly appreciated. And two, going forward, it seems like this is a problem. Like, when we have new developments, do we have someone from the town who's, actively looking at these types of issues, or?
The majority of the communities, especially when I was in the consulting world, they would hire a third-party engineer. So, the planning board approves a subdivision. During the approval process, they hire a peer review engineering company to review the drawings, the calculations, make sure everything is done right and up to code and regulations. And then when the construction starts, the town has that same peer reviewer go out there for construction inspections. Periodic. I know they're set. Drainage structure installation, subgrade prep, just it's kind of a checklist to confirm everything is done right. All that work is done on the developer's dime. They provide a nice big check to the town. Jason puts it in a 53G account, and it gets drawn down as the engineer does their work. What's that?
I used to. The account does.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. I'll go get Katie.
It's like,
Don't have to do that anymore. That's how most towns do it. It wasn't done like that here before. They would just, staff would run out whenever they had a chance to, look at stuff. Oh, I'm out on the road, let me go take a look at how the work is going, which is not the way to do things. And if you have a good contractor, it would go well. If you have somebody who doesn't care, like here, that's what you end up with.
Hey,
So,
you said that this is 1.8 to 2.3, depending on granite curbing or not. So are we taking it forward at a 1.8, or are we taking it forward at a 2.3? And who determines that it should or shouldn't be granite?
you guys, select board, taxpayers, not me. I don't think it's right to ask for an additional $500,000 to put something in that I don't believe is warranted. I'm happy to do it. It makes no difference from an engineer's perspective or from a plow operator's perspective, whether it's granite or asphalt. If the desire is of 2.3 ask, that'd be great.
Who, have you had any pushback on granite for up there?
No.
Okay, all right.
Nope, I've met with the residents 3 times up there, talking about their concerns. They're aware of this. They've been beyond patient. They ask me this time of the year, where are we? My first response 2 years ago was, oh, we have drainage improvements on our capital plan for $300,000. We can do yours for 3 years in a row, and then we can pay for 3 years in a row. And then this culvert failed, and that culvert failed, and this culvert failed. So I think they're kind of sick of hearing the same story, and it needs to be addressed. So.
Jason, how are you planning on trying to fund this?
Well, the overall capital plan, I mean, these projects haven't really changed that much from last week. So
Okay.
I didn't provide an updated funding plan from last week's, but
So you're saying
this-
free cash?
well, this one, I mean, this is where the work comes in of trying to allocate where these projects are coming from. This one is shown, this is the single biggest project in the capital plan beyond the
roof?
roof that would definitely necessitate borrowing. But the shortfall we have in the capital plan is about $1.3 million. So this one's highlighted as being borrowing because it probably would have a longer useful life if we were to consider borrowing for a project. This is the largest project within the capital plan, so
And what's the vote at town meeting to get that passed?
2/3.
2/3, okay.
Scott, it looks like there's at least 4 dozen houses up there. I don't know how far it goes over the back.
Yep.
But it looks like there's at least 4 dozen houses with half a dozen little culverts.
Yeah, a bunch of little
Cul-de-sacs, excuse me,
cul-de-sacs.
cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, you can tell, when you go up, Liberty is one of the cul-de-sacs that ends, and then it goes up the hill on Assabet. When you get on Liberty and you look at some of the fronts of the houses, the front steps are kind of leaning forward. There's undulations in the driveways. You can see the poor construction methods up there. It's evident throughout the development. I've had residents ask me, what's going on? Why, what the roads? I said, well, just look at your front steps. The same person who did those steps did this road, and that's why this is the situation. I don't know what their foundations are like. I hope they're okay, but it's a problematic neighborhood.
So the town takes responsibility up to the property line,
Yes,
and then everything beyond that is the homeowner.
right. Yep.
And these are the homes I asked about, like, these are the ones that are behind the fire station?
Right.
Up the hill?
Yep, you can see them from the fire station property now. The vegetation's gone.
okay.
Yeah.
When were they constructed?
I believe it was in the early 90s.
The early 90s.
Okay. And the 531 to the 920 is just based on inflationary increases?
531 to 920.
Yeah, the
Dot
2019
points in
estimates.
your memo.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Right.
And that's before you had all the culvert problems and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's an expansion of scope as well, then? It's not just, is that,
Well, that was just the drainage repairs. The 920 is just the drainage work.
so the same scope,
Same exact
so
scope.
that's just inflation?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we have, where's my capital plan? I think I included that in one of your documents on what I have for escalations. Every, I don't know, 3 to 4 years, I'll go backwards 5 or 6 years and do an escalation, a calculation. So in the capital plan, you'll notice some kind of odd numbers as you see repetitive vehicle purchases out. So, for example, our large trucks, 412,028 goes up to 472 and 540. Those are weird numbers, but they're derived from escalation look back. So I have a 6-year look back, and our escalation factors, I'll read them off quick, there's nothing to remember, but civil construction, 5% annually. Equipment, backhoes and stuff, 5% annually. Small trucks, those are F-350s, 7% annually. Medium trucks, the F-550s, 10% annually. Large trucks are 7%. Building construction has been about 5%. And then I mentioned earlier about the facility condition assessment multiplier of 2.5. In a couple of years, I'll do another 6-year look back, and hopefully by then, we're out of the COVID window and these percentages come back down to earth. But I'm always asked how I get my escalations, and I gotta have some data to base it on, and that's,
Can you email those to our chair so that that could be distributed to us?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
happy to do it.
Oh, is it in there?
Yeah, it's on the one-ton truck for
Okay.
purpose.
It's in the,
Okay.
don't worry.
So next up, we have our, are you ready to move on? Mr.
Yes,
Chairman? I'm
please.
sorry.
Please.
All right, next up is a street sweeper. We have 2 of these in our fleet. We're required by Mass DEP, the EPA through Mass DEP to sweep our streets twice a year in accordance with our MS4 permit, our NIPSI permit. It takes about 8 to 10 weeks with 2 sweepers to sweep all of our streets. We typically don't get them all done in the fall because for some reason DEP doesn't understand that snow comes before oak leaves fall sometimes. So their goal is to get all the leaves out of the gutters before winter comes. We do our best, but when snow falls, you don't sweep snow. It doesn't work well. So we're proposing to trade in a 2011. It'll be 17 years old at the time of trade-in. I did reach out to our vendor and asked generally what do they usually get for age of trade-ins. They said it's been 12 to 15 years old. That was the age of our last sweeper that we traded in. This one will be 17 years old by the time it gets traded in. These work in a pretty corrosive and nasty environment. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's bad, but it's nothing but rock and salt and oil and asbestos dust from brakes, and it's just a nasty environment that they work in. We talked earlier about is there an opportunity to rent one of these? They do rent them. They're generally for parking lot maintenance. They're not, mild production equipment like this. If it was mild production equipment like this, everybody wants them at the same time, so you can't rent them. Everybody sweeps in the spring. That's just when you do it. You don't have any other choice in Massachusetts. So we got a vendor quote for this, the $325,000. Our last trade-in, I think we got, $7,500. That was for a 12-year-old sweeper. This thing, I don't know, we'll probably get $5,000 for it or something like that. And you'll see the escalation out for 415 is that the equipment escalation I talked about. If we would have a single sweeper, and it went down, we would not be able to comply with our permit, and we would probably get dinged with a notice of noncompliance, an NON from Mass DEP. If it didn't go down, it would not stop. It would just sweep all year long and eventually go down. These things, they don't work in perpetuity. So having 2 in the fleet is important.
So if you don't comply with the NPDES, you just don't get a permit? Is that what happens?
No, it's an EPA permit that's promulgated through DEP. So DEP is the local enforcement agency for it. Typically what they do is they issue a notice of noncompliance, which has some bullets on it that say, you need to do this and that and this and that, and by some deadlines. It's like a warning ticket as opposed to a traffic ticket. And when you can't comply with that, which we wouldn't be able to with one sweeper. If we got caught, then they issue an administrative consent order, an ACO, and that's the one that comes with like nasty fines and usually results in a bit of a legal battle, and you end up doing more than you originally needed to, just to kind of save face and make up ground.
When we write our report, stuff like this really helps to justify why we don't want to be out of compliance. So
Okay.
you might hear back from us just what you just said to us in more detail.
I'm happy to provide paragraphs or clarifications as requested, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Not to be in the report, just a point of curiosity, your sweepings,
Yep.
how do you get rid of them?
Oh, yeah, we pay dearly to get rid of them.
Yeah.
They're a contaminated material. We have an LSP that manages them. They have to have a chain of custody. They have to have analyticals done. They are typically used as intermittent layers in a landfill. If you have a lined landfill, they'll often use this material as daily cover or weekly cover. It's not a permanent cover. It's nothing you can put in a hole like backfill or anything like that. It's pretty nasty stuff. I actually saw a resident over there with a bucket. She was trying to shovel some in so she could use it in her driveway. I'm like, don't. That's not the stuff you want to go.
Wrong pile.
Go over here, the other pile.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Yep. This one was on the select board's agenda last night. This is the Hudson Street Bridge over the Cold Harbor Brook. 56 Hudson Street is the big red industrial building between River Street, kind of heading back toward Peppers. You'll see when you drive down Hudson Street on the, go out of town or whatever, away from downtown, on the right-hand side, there's some orange barriers where there's a sidewalk that's now failed. That's where the bridge is. It's an old stone arch bridge, you can see in the photograph. I know it's gotta be 150, 200 years old. Mass DOT started doing bridge inspections for municipally owned bridges 2019-ish in that window, because they realized we weren't doing them. Bridge inspections are specialized and very expensive. So they, as a courtesy to their constituents, they went out and did some inspections for local bridges. Ours was inspected in 2022, again in 2024. These defects were observed. The lower, it's hard to see in this little photograph, but the lower right-hand call-out you see, that's a bearing stone on the bottom of an arch. There's basically 3 stones on an arch that are critical. Everybody knows the keystone on the top, and the 2 bearing stones on the ends. Those are like the 3 critical ones. Everything else is just a bunch of Lincoln Logs and Legos that connect those. That one has a substantial crack in it. The little voids, they just happen to be nice in the same picture. Those aren't the worst of voids. When Mass DOT did the inspection, like they use those little poles that people use when they go walking in the woods, and there's a photograph of one of the poles buried into a void up to the handle. So it's got to be 30 inches deep. This is a town-owned bridge. My concern is that if DOT inspects it and finds it to be more deterioration than currently, or they go a little deeper into evaluating it, that they close Hudson Street. We certainly don't want that. The sidewalk that you see barriered off, there's no photograph of it here, but we do have it in the inspection report. All the concrete underneath is gone, and the rebar has been 100% deteriorated. So if the barriers weren't there, where that little pipe rail is standing, is kind of leaning on the brick wall, if I stood out there and jumped up and down, it would probably fall into the river. It's that deteriorated. So my goal is, this funding is for design services, design and engineering services. We're seeking a $150,000 grant from Mass DOT to assist with the design services. I would like to have the design services done in-house by our consultant, so we have control over what the disposition is of the recommendations at the end. Being an old stone arch, if this was evaluated and redesigned by a Mass DOT led design team, I can guarantee you this bridge would not meet seismic current design standards. nor would it likely meet current scour design standards, which means it would be a full replacement. And that's not something I think the community wants to pay for. Us keeping the engineers under our control allows us to make sure that this bridge repair project is a bridge repair and restoration project, not reconstruction or replacement. Reconstruction and replacement have to comply with current design standards, the Mass DOT Chapter 85 review, and would be financially crippling for a bridge of this size. So if we keep it in-house, we have control over it and go through a repair process. But we need an engineer to come in and evaluate what those repairs should entail.
When do you think you'll have a cost for actually the bridge reconstruction?
It would likely be in the fall.
In the fall?
Yeah, so we're submitting the grant application first week of January. DOT says that they announce the awards early or before the 2026 construction season, so I would expect to get something in March, I hope, in time to either amend the dollar value in the article before town meeting, before the warrant goes in, or if not, have somebody on the floor do it, if we get awarded.
So are you requesting 178? Are you requesting that, or are you hoping to have a grant for 150?
Yes.
Yeah, the 150 will offset the 178.
It'd be 20.
It'll be 28.
So we're hoping that maybe this will be a reduction.
Yes, I'm requesting before you support for the 178.3.
I think that's good. I'd rather have you ask for the full amount, get the grant and take it. You know, we did that, Blake Street, you know, we may get a grant, ask for the money, you know, and if the grant comes in,
Right.
then you save some money.
And the grant is, you think you're going to hear from the grant when?
They say that it's announced before the 2026 construction season. And Mass DOT construction season starts April 15th. Is it the 14th, which would be after the warrant gets published, so it would have to be on the floor changed, or what have you? But I don't care. I mean, anybody gets up and changes it to 28.3, which, you know, that's
Right.
fine.
Save 150 grand.
I don't think there's an argument about that
No, I
motion.
don't either.
I think somebody in this committee would do that for you.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, also, just as a point of clarification on this, I think it would be good to explain what the potential cost of a full, like, tear-out, reconstruction, new bridge would be. I think it kind of shows the value of working with what we got here.
Yep, okay, that's a good point.
I always struggle with these studies. You know, $178,000 for a design study. I guess I'm really struggling to understand what you're getting. I mean, I understand the merit of the project. I don't disagree with that, and I feel it would be fantastic if we got the $150,000 grant. But at the end of the day, what in God's green earth are we getting that's worth $178,000 in design of a bridge? I mean, I just struggle to get my head around that.
They're gonna survey it, they're gonna do wetland flagging, they're gonna do destructive testing, they're gonna inspect the bridge, they're gonna come up with, they're gonna develop a hydraulic and hydrologic analysis of the waterway. They're gonna coordinate with FEMA, Mass DEP, the Army Corps of Engineers, and Mass DOT and local Conservation Commission on the permitting needs. They'll come up with design recommendations for repair and/or restoration, cost estimates for each of those things, and a recommendation on how best to move forward. You'll see the scope when I email out all the quotes. That's in there.
And Scott, not to oversimplify, but it sounds like what you're saying is like, well, here's the basis of my question. The bridge has already been inspected, and the failures have been identified. Could we not take that and use that as a basis for engaging with someone that's going to come in and do the repair work?
No engineer will do that. I would never do that. I'm not gonna take up, 28-page inspection report that John put together for a bridge, and I just sit in my office and plug away at some calculations and hope John didn't miss anything. as a licensed engineer. I would never do that.
John, I trust you.
And you will not find an engineer, well, you could find an engineer that'll do that, I wouldn't hire him. But no, they need to get their eyes on it. And the inspection is not done by engineers, they're done by bridge inspectors, who look for defects. They don't necessarily understand what the repercussions are of those defects that they see. They just say, big hole, deep, here's a photograph. They don't understand if that hole is incredibly problematic. They don't understand if it's a spandrel block that's cracked, which doesn't have a lot of bearing need. You can just grout it. Or is it the bearing block, which needs to be cored and grouted and anchored. So those are the types of things that you pay $178,300 for.
Well, I guess the key concern is to what degree in this design services are there superfluous items? For example, case in point, Blake Street, we spent $250,000, if I recall, on the study for Blake Street for a 5,000 square foot piece of land, a postage stamp. And when I looked at those drawings, I noted that every species of plant was identified and the placement of each of those plants. The amount of effort that went into identifying the species of plant, the positioning of that plant, and this is just one example of many, that's superfluous as far as I'm concerned. And I think that, I'd like to understand that scope for sure, because if it has things like that, like, things that aren't necessarily relevant at this stage of the game, then, that's a lot of money to spend for a study. And, we see this.
Who makes that determination through the scope? Is it, remember I mentioned earlier, if I give you an itemized quote and you look at it and you say, oh, I don't know if you need, a visor here, or backup camera is unnecessary, or.
I'm going to be honest with
I mean,
you.
how do you, who does that?
That project had to go through design and review committee, and then you have to have a landscape plan. So that had already gone there. They would have designated what kinds of plants if it wasn't already in the plan. This happens in town with a couple of people that are on a volunteer committee called Design
And
and
the
Review.
Master Plan Implementation Committee chimes in on that, too.
Yeah, but I mean, they sit there and they go through their bylaws
Yeah.
and everything else.
I mean, we just look
And the
at.
planning board asks questions.
Sure. And-
That's why those plants are there.
Yeah, and that's fine. The problem is that in the many years that I've watched town meeting, participated in town meetings, seen the variety of studies that have been done, whether it's the dog park, the downtown area, the roofs, whatever. It's six-figure studies are thrown around time and time again, and I guess I really like to understand, are we being good fiduciaries with the taxpayers' money, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies? I'd like to understand what the work product is. I think it's a fair question to understand how we're spending this money. And we're looking at a multi-million-dollar deficit this year where we're going to have to possibly borrow this money, and I think we owe it to the taxpayers to ask these hard questions. We need to make the hard cuts so that, people aren't having to spend thousands and thousands of extra dollars every year on their tax bill.
But there's a difference between saying, no, you're not gonna, you don't need a truck. Live with what you got. Okay, that's fine, no problem. Don't, don't put a rear view, a backup camera on a truck. Fine, the thing still goes in reverse. A scope of work for a bridge engineer is not a shopping list. I'm not gonna go back to an engineer who gave me a scope of services and say, you don't need to do cores on the bridge slab. Don't do cores. We're not going to do that. We just won't do it, because I'm not going to put one of my peers in a position to be vulnerable to omissions.
Building collapse,
Meaning he wasn't allowed.
bridge collapse, you can't have that.
Yeah, I
They
was
weren't
going
allowed
to
to
say,
have the
what are the
information
legal
needed.
implications
I'm
if
not
you
gonna
have
do
a
that. So
problem?
either,
said
that's,
no.
it's not a shopping list.
And that's fine. So let's understand then what that scope is
Yep, you'll have
and what the effort involved in doing it is, so that we can measure the value that's related to it.
I
It's as
think,
simple as
I
that.
don't
I
even
think-
think we have a choice, right?
I mean,
It's like-
I know, I'm a civil engineer, I'm not a mechanic, I can't go into the depths of what the issue is with the diesel, I just take my mechanic's word for it, and, because he's the expert, he's the professional. I'm a civil engineer, this is what I do for a living. I'm not gonna have one of my peers do something that, with inadequate information, or base it on, unsafe assumptions. Because what you'll end up with is you'll end up with somebody who provides you a design that is way more conservative than is needed because they don't have the information needed. If I don't know how to build, a header over a bay window, I'm probably gonna use a glue lamp, when all I needed to do was triple up my 2x6s. And I'm gonna spend 4 times as much because I didn't have the information, because I don't know any, that you just don't.
There's just standards, aren't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
For bridges.
and that's fine, but I'm.
Standards, safety standards?
There's design standards, but not standards on how you do it.
And that's fine, and
Oh, okay.
I'm not that concerned about chicken little syndrome here. What I'm concerned with is I'm concerned with what the itemization and what the person hours are relative to this, what the work product is, what we're getting for, $180,000. And that goes across the board for all studies. We need to understand what these are. You could throw a number and say, well, grandma's gonna die if we don't do this, and somebody's gonna get sued. That's fine, you know what, maybe true. But it doesn't take away from the necessity of having an understanding of what the work product is.
But you don't know.
And what the value is.
I don't want to belabor it, but you don't know what the work product is for design solutions without the data to begin with. So without doing a inspection and hydraulic and hydrologic analysis and calculations on what the capacity is for either a block or a slab or what have you, you don't know what the corrective measures are. You just, without the information, you don't. We have a document with 28 pages and a bunch of photographs. You don't know it. You don't know what the bearing capacity of a soil is without doing a boring.
And that's not the point. That's not the question. The question is, what are those elements of the design services that are going to be provided so that we can measure against those? This data that you're talking about, that we're trying to ascertain,
Yep.
what are those components? What does it take to do this? What does it take to do that?
Okay, that's a little bit different.
Well,
from
that
what
was
you
the
said.
question.
That was a little bit different from what you said, but that's okay. I understand.
We can play the tape.
Okay, what I think about all of this is that we need to get to the place that we're all comfortable with getting this design and evaluation done. Because we really can't have another main road coming into town shut down
I'll give,
because of a faulty bridge. We don't want the state to shut us down. So we're gonna have to move forward, and we're gonna have to figure out the best way to
Yep.
do it.
I'll give you the scope that we have, and I'll explain to you what an engineer's scope is before they've even stepped into a puddle. It's got detail in the beginning, and it gets more vague as you get further, because the further down the scope line, those scope tasks are based on the information obtained in the early phases of the project. So you don't know what the work is at the end until you know what you're working on in the beginning. So the further down the road you get, the more vague it is, just like any other projection.
And just high-level process for this. So it sounds like what you're saying is, so Mass DOT has come out, they have inspected the bridge, declared it unsafe, then they turn it over to us, go out and hire an engineer and a company to come in and repair it? Do they come back and inspect it at the end?
No, so they did the inspection, they showed us the conditions of it. There's 2 choices, and I thought I was making a choice that was in the best interest of the community's dollars and efficiency, which was the process I described about keeping the design control under the town. There's another process that Mass DOT offers, where you give up all control, and Mass DOT hires an engineer, Mass DOT and their engineer take over the project. They do all the design work for free, so I don't need this capital item. It's gone. We don't have to pay a dime for it at all. And then they go through the Chapter 85 process. They go through the seismic analysis and scour analysis that I was talking about earlier. And then when it's all done, they have a final design for the bridge. I don't know what that is, whether it's replacement, rehabilitation, or what have you. But if it's Chapter 85 compliant, it's going to be either reconstruction or replacement. That's what it's going to be. And then it goes into construction. And their construction funding cap is $1 million. But we're committed to do whatever else it is. So
Over $1 million.
over the $1 million. And replacing this bridge with this proximity to those two buildings is gonna be far more than $1 million. I can guarantee you that. So that's the other avenue. It doesn't cost us a penny. There's no money wasted on studies or borings or surveys or anything. I just go to DOT and wipe my hands off, which is the easiest thing for me to do. I mean, as a director, that's
They
easy.
can't even take care of the bridge at the end of Whitney Street until 2030, so how quickly will they come out and help us with Hudson Street?
Well, they'll go through the design process efficiently, then they'll give us the final design and the estimate, and they'll give us $1 million toward the construction, and that's it. And I can do that. That's very easy for me.
But it sounds like there's no sense of urgency, that if you pull that trigger to go down Plan B, you're gonna sit there waiting, twiddling your thumbs until they show up.
Yeah.
And there's been no issuance of desire to go for a Plan B. The question was simply understanding the value that we would be receiving for $178,000. So again, we don't need to get apocalyptic of saying, we go down to Plan B, which is, even worse, but let's stick to where we are.
Right.
So again, we don't need to, this is,
I think that's best for the community, but the Plan B is $0 today. Don't pay a penny.
Yeah, my question really wasn't about what's better or worse. I mean, it sounds like keeping control over everything is definitely more cost-effective. I just was asking, like, are they gonna come in at the end? Is there a possibility that Mass DOT is gonna come back after everything's finished, and they say like, oh, well, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or there's still...
No, my goal and objective solely for the community is to avoid a Chapter 85 review. That's a state regulation that defines all of the criteria for bridge design and construction in the Commonwealth. I want to avoid that as much as possible because it's going to cost the town a fortune.
Okay.
If that's the case.
Okay.
But like I talked to you about the culverts, that's like the easiest thing for me to do. I just send it's the same application. I just check a different box.
Yeah.
And they fund it, and I just sit back and wait for the phone to ring, get an email, and whatever happens, happens.
Okay. So they made their study, and the assumption is on their part, if they don't hear from you asking for Plan B, then they just kind of assume that the town is doing Plan A, and
Doing what we
they're
should.
on to other things.
We're responsible infrastructure owners. That's what their assumption is.
Okay.
How long will that street be closed, or will you be able to do it so that there's like one lane?
I don't expect any closure.
You don't?
I do not. I believe there's a bearing slab on the top. When you go across the bridge, you'll see two traverse cracks. They're just about equally offset from the peak of the arch. I think there's a concrete slab on top. That's what my gut tells me. If that's the case, it's probably 120-year-old concrete, which is 3 to 4 inch angular granite. Sound is a son of a gun. It's probably got 8,000 PSI on it. I'm hopeful the slab is good. If that's the case, we're not doing any work above. All of our work is below and on the shoulders. Get that sidewalk off, put up a roadside barrier that's safe, a bridge rail. Get on the other side, get that falling apart guardrail off, put a safe bridge rail there, and then go in the water and start grouting some holes, and maybe you have to core and anchor back with some tie rods, tiebacks, the blocks that are split. That's my hope is.
Okay.
I've done bridges similar to this in Quincy, and that's kind of what we did.
So am I hearing we're going to get more information about the scope of the design?
I'm going to email you a zip file with everything in my capital thing. There might be a couple stragglers I got to get because it was just an email from a consultant or something. Hey, how much do you think this will cost? Because it costs money. If you have somebody come out and do an evaluation and give you an estimate, it'll cost you money. So
I'm
I'll
glad
get
to
you.
hear that we don't have to close the road.
I'll get you everything you asked for, and if it takes a few days or a week to get more, I will.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a couple more items on here.
Yep, these are all enterprise funds. I will bring these before the Water Sewer Commission for their support. They're already aware of it. The next two, I can take at the same time. First one's a sewer pipe rehab, the other one's a water pipe rehab. Forbes Road, I don't know if everybody's familiar with Forbes Road. Off up of Whitney Street, you kinda gotta go through Berlin to get there now, unfortunately. Forbes Road Industrial Park was all built at the same time. They put a pump station down at the end of Forbes Road, go way to the end of the parking lot, left-hand side, there's a little bit of a building there, that's a pump station. Behind the pump station, there's a wetland that has an easement that goes through to the Solomon Pond cloverleaf on the mall side of the cloverleaf. There's a water line and a sewer line that goes through that low-lying area. They're both ductile iron pipes. One's a ductile iron force main for the sewer, the other one's a ductile iron water main. They're in a valley. Above that valley is 290 and the cloverleaf for Solomon Pond. The soils down there, it must be like a salt marsh. The soils, I believe, are incredibly corrosive. We're doing some testing in the next couple of weeks where we're going to get out there and dig some test pits and get some grab samples from the soil to do some porosity testing. We had 2 breaks in that area from the pipes. When we went down there, we took a piece of the pipe that broke. We did the repair, brought the piece of pipe back to the shop. It looked unlike anything I've ever seen. I called one of our engineering consultants to come out, who's a pipe expert, and it's suffering from graphitization. So when you have a cast iron pipe and it's subject to certain corrosive soils, it literally turns into graphite. And when they called him on the phone, I told him what we observed. He said, can you write on paper with it? And you can't. It's literally pencil lead, the pipe. And it's not one spot. It doesn't, like, there's a segment of pipe. It goes down a hill, runs through this flat lowland, and then comes back up the Solomon Pond Road. That low-lying area is where I believe we have graphitization in our water and sewer pipes. It's systemic. I don't know if it's systemic, but it is a systemic problem when it occurs. So we're going to do some test pits. We're going to grab some soil samples in the upland, and then at pipe depth, and then in the expected soil, corrosive soil area, and to see what the problem is. My hope and expectation is that it's not at all, it's just a spot problem, but I don't think it is. So we would propose to do cure-in-place pipe here, very similar to what we did with the culverts. Completely different process, but it's a similar product because it's a smaller pipe. The water can be done relatively easily because it could be shut off. There's no services running through the swamp. The sewer may be a little bit more problematic, but again, there's no services there, so you just have the bypass. And you don't have to bypass pump because you already got a pump at the pump station. So you hook up a pump there, you run it through the swamp to the manhole, and then you just do your cured-in-place pipe with some access pits, and you have a brand-new structural pipe inside of an existing pipe.
That the graphite can't get to anymore?
Right, yeah, the inside is like a fiberglass polymer inside the pipe.
It's like lining it, basically.
Yeah, yep.
You haven't done CCTV through the pipe yet, or have you? Did you?
No, this is a pressure, we'd have to do what I just described. For CCTV inside a water line, we'd have to isolate the water line, cut into it, CCTV it, disinfect it, test the disinfection, 2 negatives 24 hours apart, and then reintroduce water. Sewer, we'd have to bypass it, and I don't believe we would get a CCTV in there, it's only 4 inches. So we'd have to cut access pits, I want to say every 80 to 100 feet, you can't get much further than that. The concern is not the inside of the pipe, it's the outside.
Okay, well.
And
okay.
we have a sample of what the pipe looks like.
Yeah, I'm just curious if the contamination could be, I mean, just based on that area, there's excessive salt that's provided that would be runoff off to the sides. So that area would be reasonable to understand where there'd be, well, you know, a lot of corrosion. But CCTV, you'd be able to see if that's throughout the pipe, if it actually is, like you said, a salt field where it's more than just runoff. It's actually, there's some corrosive minerals that are native to that area for whatever reason.
That's what the grab sample is going to find out. We'll find out what is in the soils. I assume it's salt. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I've seen pipes corrode from straight current. You know, when you're in the electrical world, you get straight current, man, boom,
Sure.
pipes are gone.
Yeah.
The graphitization is from the outside in. These are both pressure pipes, so we don't have to worry about anything getting in, like any contamination getting into drinking water. Pressure pipes, everything goes out. And we have the grab sample we have shows a nice cross-section of what the wall thickness doesn't change. It's just the chemical composition, which is interesting. It turns into a very brittle material. I'm not a metallurgist or a pipe expert, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of cool stuff to learn about, I guess.
And the longevity shouldn't be impacted, like after we, if we can put that, basically line the pipe, it's, should be good for a long period of time, right?
Yeah, it's a fiberglass material on the inside. It's a structural pipe. The similar materials that we use on the culverts. I have a piece of it at the highway garage, and you could jump on it as hard as you want. You could drive over with a truck. It doesn't go out of shape. It's an impressive product.
And shrinking the circumference of the interior isn't going to be a problem?
No, you overcome the loss of diameter with reduced friction on the inside of the pipe. The end factor is reduced from the fiberglass compared to cast iron. That was the same thing with the culverts.
Yeah.
Could you run us through the funding mechanisms that you guys are considering for this?
Oh, I can speak to it through the chair. This is actually a good opportune time that there was a couple abandoned, or there's 3 abandoned projects that were older projects that we had borrowed for, whereby the money was sitting on our books, and we confirmed with bond counsel that this would be appropriately lengthy of a lifespan for this project, to this public infrastructure project, to reapply those funds to this project. So
This wouldn't be enterprise funds?
yeah, they were enterprise fund
They were
projects.
enterprise funds, right,
correct,
okay.
yeah. So, again, sometimes if you borrow for something too early and a project gets abandoned or canceled, it can be a major logistical challenge to find another project to apply existing money to, and this will solve that problem for us. So
I know you
approximately
had-
half will be.
You had a handful of these coming into this year, as I recall.
Yeah, there's not many,
Right.
not many anymore. I mean, we've successfully worked through a lot of it,
Right.
but there's, one of the challenges has been too, is like, if you transfer an abandoned project to a new project and that project's abandoned, that's happened a couple times here as well, so.
One of the reasons I'm asking is because in the narrative, it says approved unused project funds. If it says unused enterprise funds, it would be, I would have understood better where we were going to be.
Yeah,
getting
they
the
were
money from.
enterprise funds.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you specifically
The
which ones these
narrative
were.
here was done well before Jason started digging into what was available in prior bonds. This is just me, the financial layperson, saying it's coming from
Yeah,
somewhere else.
I think I told Scott we had some money, and he
Yeah, I said it's all.
reiterated that.
Yeah.
But again, these articles are going back to 2007, Article 24 sewer design for a project that we bonded
And in your
for.
warrant article, you'll be saying that, right? The warrant article will have
Oh,
to
yeah,
say where
yeah,
you're going to
yeah.
transfer the money.
It'll say that, yes.
And so, and then there's going to be 246,000 that is either going to be free cash or borrowing? Is that what's probably happening with that, or is it enterprise funds?
It'll be enterprise funds, free
It
cash.
will be enterprise funds, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, enterprise funds have, you refer to the general fund as free cash. Enterprise funds are generally referred to as retained earnings.
Okay, thank you.
It's interchangeable. Sometimes, a lot of times they're called enterprise free
Prefer to
cash.
use
but-
retained earnings so it doesn't get confused with the
Yeah.
general fund stuff.
Did
so
not
just-
resonate with me at all, but,
Don't
I
worry.
know,
okay.
It gets confusing, but the state does call it, a lot of cases, sewer free cash or water enterprise
Okay,
free
good.
cash. But
All right.
again, before that, before they started commonly referring to it as that, it was just called retained earnings, which is more understandable for
Okay.
most people.
That, I think your last thing is the reservoir dam.
Yeah, we've talked about this year over year, over year, over year, over year, over year. We're close to done with design and permitting. That total cost came in just under $300,000 to design and permit the partial removal of the reservoir, Northborough Reservoir Dam. You're all familiar with it. It's in Shrewsbury and Boylston. It's the former reservoir for Northborough. It's no longer needed. We're under an order from the state to repair it, remove it, repair it or remove it. We've chosen to remove it because we have no use for it. Repair would be far more expensive. As I said, the permitting is just about complete. Our last permit is through FEMA. We actually had to get a Chapter 91 permit through the state for navigable waterways. Ross and Brook, they wanted to make sure that we were not impeding the travel of commerce through the United States waters. So our Chapter 91 permit went through successfully. That was money well spent. Part of the design work, 80% of the design and permitting work was funded through the Mass DCR's Dam and Seawall Grant Program. This grant program supports primarily municipalities and nonprofits to comply with dam safety orders. Our case, they provided 80% of the design costs. Generally speaking, knock on wood, they continue that level of support through the construction phase, which is also an 80% with a 20% match. The $250,000 is the 20% match. It's actually a little higher than that because by the time the work is actually done. So we have a construction cost estimate of $1 million, just under $998,500 today. The work is not going to occur until after we get the grant award, which is likely not going to happen until this time in '26, which means the work would not be done until '27. So that's why there's a $50,000, for lack of better terms, contingency in the capital request. When the grant goes in, we'll go through an escalation exercise. The $50,000 should accommodate the additional 20% once that escalation is considered. So that's why, if it's $1 million project and we have a 20% local match, I'm not asking for 200, because when the grant application goes in, it's going to be a year from now, costs go up. I want to make sure we have adequate resources. It's Water Enterprise Fund borrowing,
Okay.
and it is built into our rate study. All of our capital items, we've always had a 6-year capital plan. We have a 6-year rate study, and all of our capital items are depicted in the rate study. So these are all built in going forward. Their spacing is not arbitrary. It's part of the rate analysis.
So I would like to ask all the departments, just because of the way it is this year, not because I want you to, but I want to understand if you had to defer something else. You have deferred quite a bit. If you had to, is there anything that you would consider, or would you like to have time to think about that and get back to our chair?
The vast majority of these items are critical to the community or our own operations and compliance. The facilities van with the thought that I believe Scott had would probably be the most logical deference, I would think.
Okay.
That's probably the most logical one. The Hudson Street Bridge, just wait till it fails. That's easy.
No.
But I don't want to do that because it's very inconvenient.
Okay.
Much traffic do we get through downtown? If that's the case, no River Street cut-arounds, none of that.
Well, if you had an emergency where you needed a first responder to go from downtown area, police or fire, and they've got to go Hudson, you got a mess.
Yeah.
In terms of just a massive
Yep,
diversion.
right.
I think that's a great point, because I think people forget at town meeting that we value education and we value safety services, but we can't get kids to school in the buses if the streets aren't there. And we can't get the police and the fire trucks where they need to go in the community if we're not on top of the things that you're taking care of. So I think if we could give you that kind of support more often at town meeting, that would probably be helpful.
And I never come before any board or committee suggesting anything that I would not suggest in my own town. I don't want to waste resources or time at all. I don't. There are often much easier ways for things to get done. They just cost more, and I'd prefer not to do that.
Honestly, Scott, over the last 3 years where we had really no leadership before you, in the town hall, I don't know where you found the time for all of it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your input tonight. We look forward to getting your additional documentation and feedback on this in the coming weeks. And we're going to consume that and reconvene somewhere next month to move things forward, so.
I expect you to receive 2 rounds of packages. One will be immediate, which is everything I have in the can that I believe is thorough and easily digestible. And then if I need things that provide a little more detail, that, like you're requesting, Mike, then I will need a little more time, and there'll be a second round of information.
We'll determine that. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Great, thank
May
you.
I ask, communication-wise, once he sends that out, would you like people to funnel their questions through the chair or directly to you?
I like things, just come to me and copy the chair. As long as the chair knows it's happening. You know, when I respond to select board, they reach out to me directly. I copy Steph on the response. I'm
Okay.
perfectly comfortable and open for communication. If anybody wants to look through files or have questions about stuff, you know, feel free to give me a shout. I'm happy to
All right.
do that as well.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Good. Thanks. Scott, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Do you want me to put that in your box?
No, I process bills too. Come on now.
Don't lose it.
Enjoy the holidays if I don't see you
You
all.
too. Thank you. Be safe.
Scott.
All right. Next agenda item is public comments. Any member, there's no one physically in the room. Anyone virtually out there with public comments? Going once? Going twice? Okay, none. Any other business? So we've got a couple items on here. One is, the status of the Z School roof project proposal. Reached out to Greg Martineau and his colleagues the other day. Nothing from them yet. I would hope that by about now, we would get something from them. I'll send them a little tickler in the morning, but we're looking for a little more detail for them sharpening the pencils on the roof proposal that they presented to us in the last couple of weeks. Unless any of you have heard more today. Okay.
I just want to give a reminder to everybody on this committee that I do believe that Greg would tell him if he had the information. I do believe Keith Lavoy would. But I think there's a pecking order, and he's going to have to make his presentation to his school committee, and they meet the first Wednesday of the month, which means in January. So I would not be surprised if we didn't get formal things from them just because of that, because he has to apprise them of what's going on before it goes someplace else.
Sure. And he's familiar that we're curious about options of possible repair.
Quite
as
curious.
opposed- Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and certainly anything that comes my way, I'll make sure we share it with the group.
And he is also coming before the select board on the 12th of January. So there'll be a lot more.
On certainly Z and other topics, probably? Okay.
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine.
And a lot of it is just education, like, special ed. They have a
Okay.
lot of challenges this year.
Okay, all right, good.
John, before we move on to the calendar, is it appropriate to ask for just kind of where we are with White Cliffs at this point?
Yeah, sure. So right now, we're really close. We, of course, went from a lease to a purchase, back to a lease. We're working with the preservationists. They changed to want to go for the federal tax credits. So it has to be set up in a way that they're almost owners, so we're going back and forth right now because we were back to a lease situation due to the environmental cleanup. So, and of course, the town is not incurring any debt for that. They are putting all of their money into the cleanup, the preservation, everything. But that's why it's, we're going back and forth and trying to structure it appropriately so it gets approved by Mass Historic Committee, it gets approved by, whoever will be holding the deed restriction. So, it's a little bit of a balancing act, but as in terms, both parties are very agreeable, so I feel good about that.
Have you developed a timeline of any sort, even if you can't speak about it in public?
Well, so we're aiming toward town meeting in April,
Okay.
yes.
I'm curious about the pivot, because the pivot from lease to purchase,
Yep,
well, I believe one of the catalysts there was the lenders.
it was.
So how is it that now
Because
it's-
then they had all of their contractors come down, and the environmental costs were more than what they expected. So, basically, they need time for that cash flow to come in. where a leasing situation sets them up better for that.
But the understanding I had, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Never
but-
mind the liability, because we, the town, own the property, so they feel more comfortable, as their attorney does, to make sure that the site can get cleaned up for X amount, what they're proposing it to be right now, which could be around 2 million. So they want to make sure it's cleaned up so that when they purchase it, they're purchasing it as a clean site, which, of course, the town would stand behind.
But didn't the lenders want it to be a purchase so that they could have some collateral?
Absolutely,
And
but
so
then
does-
the bank also is privy to clean up, and they want to make sure that everything is done appropriately. So that's our number one step, is making sure that the site is cleaned up. So we're dealing with mold, we're dealing with asbestos, we're dealing with the lead paint. So there's lead paint on the exterior, some on the interior. There's ways you have to move out the windows and bag the windows, so it's, and never mind the fact, preserving everything as you're doing it. So, you're not hurting the wood, you're not hurting windows that you're saving.
We heard last week the cost of windows.
Yes,
I
we did.
know, I know.
So they would be bearing the costs of all of that, the contamination
Yep.
remediation?
Yep. And they're good with that, as long as we're, we're working with them at enough balanced rate that they're able to do their things, they feel comfortable. They've put in so much soft cost right now with, hiring people to come out and investigate, and they have already spent a lot of money on the project right now. So, but, they're excited, we're excited. So it's moving along.
Elegant Banquets had a timeline of when they wanted to start trying to book before they even got to the
Right.
building. So have they changed their opening date considerably?
Bless you. I would say it pushed out probably, I think they were aiming way in the beginning, April. And that's when we're going to town meeting. So essentially, that's when they would start. But they've already started. I mean, if you see all the people that they've had down there and going through the building, they've gone to Worcester, they've looked at the inventory. There's been so much done from, the time the RFP went out to the award to, they hit the pavement trying to get cost, working with banks. And it was a big interview process. They had to, bid out every single type, whether it's, the preservationist, the architect, the environmental companies. So, from soup to nuts, they've been nonstop.
And is the option to buy still part
Oh,
of the
yes,
plan?
absolutely. Yep, that's their goal.
I just want to remind everybody, if it doesn't go through, we have considerable amount of money sitting there in that capital plan, having to take care of that building, so it's incentive to move forward, for sure.
Can't just put a chain link fence around it and wait for Mother Nature to take it over.
Yeah.
No.
I have a question. Typically, how this process works is that we get together, first of all, priority list that we use as a committee. Have you distributed it to our new members? Are they aware of the way that we rate and prioritize?
Short answer is no, short of them seeing what was in this past year's report at town meeting, no.
Okay, might be nice to send that out to all of us so that everybody can get their heads around it, so that when it comes in time to start talking about a report and the projects, we're well ahead of that, okay?
Well, I would hope that in the month of January, we have a first draft of this, and we have a first cut at what we think the priority is, and then we discuss if we want to change or tweak those. So
You're
that
saying that you would
structure-
like to prioritize them first, or you?
No,
we as a
I want,
committee?
I want to articulate the articles in the draft report, and we'll put in there what we, for the first cut, what we believe the priority is, and we discuss amongst us if we want to tweak that, up or
I
down.
just send them the priorities so that they know what that looks like and what it all means.
It's 1, 2, 3, or 4, but I'll do that, sure.
Okay. But I feel that there's a lot happening in this town. And normally, it's just a report that goes to the select board and to appropriations. I wonder if we might want to consider a memo sooner than later about some of the priorities that we do see, because we're in such a tight spot now about whether or not, I don't even think we can address whether or not we think we should be borrowing this year or not for any capital items, but I certainly would like to address for West Main Street, that the select board really needs to start having some serious conversations and setting some dates about when they're going to go after getting rid of that. If nothing else, just a memo to them about that. Because I think people are sitting back, they're waiting for White Cliffs to come off of their plates. And this might take you right down to April, and we still will not have done anything about West Main Street.
Yeah, we did, actually, we have the RFP written, ready to go. Then we had the meeting with you all, appropriations, select board. So we have all the comments, we're ready to go. It's pulling the trigger, we were gonna wait till after town meeting, but, I mean,
I just
we
think
could
that
do it sooner.
we need to push that it's something that needs to have a
I mean,
discussion.
yeah, frankly, I don't understand why they're intrinsically tied to each other. I mean, that they're two independent properties. I mean, we should be able to put them both on the sale block at the same time.
It's a big workload for a small group of people. I get it, but I think it's time to really start pushing forward. We haven't got a lot of extra money.
No,
I'm ready. I've been ready, so,
Well,
let's go.
So it sounds
Yeah.
like, yeah.
could we send a memo to them?
I'll draft something, we'll look at it as a group, and then we'll pass it up the chain.
And the longer we wait, the more maintenance issues are gonna
Yeah.
continue, and then we'll have to pay somebody to take it,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
You're talking about 4 West Main.
Or West-
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, there's, things tend to, they can linger for long periods of time, and I think 4 West Main is one of those buildings that I think most people are wondering why we still own it.
I had 2 people come to me with interest. in
That's
there.
great.
Yeah,
So why are we waiting?
yeah.
And Blake Street, what they want to do out there.
Is tied, now that's tied to it.
Is hinged around what's going to happen over there. And a lot of people don't really want to move on a Blake Street project until you find out what's going on
Right.
for West Main. Help the town planner out. Let's push this thing out.
Yep.
Don't forget, we had the option to buy the building from the prior owner for, I think, 10 grand. It was a
Yeah.
40-year lease, I
40-year
think.
lease.
And we bought it for 10K. And there's a tenant, as well as the cell phone communications on the roof that we received some income on. So there's revenue there, but it's not cash flow positive, from my understanding.
No, it is not.
Especially not with the fiscal year '28 improvements on the roof and
Oh, gosh.
everything else.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yep.
that's going to have to go into.
Yep.
We're trying
Okay.
to sell it.
Yeah.
Basically free compared to the school, though.
Yeah, right.
So, future meetings. Town meeting is the end of April, yes?
April 27th.
27th, which is a Monday. The warrant articles have to be closed and approved by the select board X amount of days or weeks before that. Why do we think it's
Yeah, I have a-
towards the end of
I have a
March?
Yeah,
calendar.
it's March, I should have it on my phone.
They're generally due to the administrator by the beginning of February, and then, the end of March is the timeline for when we want to be done with our report, because that's the hearing with the select board over the articles.
I mean, we're legally bound by our bylaws for our committee to have submitted the report by certain days before town meeting.
Yep.
So we need to figure out the calendar and count back to make sure we at least meet that.
So we
Yeah, we
have
have the calendar.
just a hair under 90 days to hammer this out, get a report drafted, and vote on the articles as a committee, and then move that up the line of the select board, and that ultimately goes to the select board in the town. And obviously also to copy to appropriations. So we've got under 90 days to do that. We got a better lead time this year than prior years to do this, but we still got a lot of work to do.
Yep.
We're going to have to sift through, for example, the dozen articles that Scott presented tonight, and the 20 other ones, 20 other projects that were presented between the CPA, Fire Police, K through 8, and Algonquin.
I think we're going to have some very important conversations here that we haven't seen in the past for financial planning, because it sounds as if the town administrator and the finance director are willing to have conversations about funding and funding mechanisms for each one of these projects, too. So I think that if they still are thinking that way and getting our input, these are important discussions to have, and I appreciate it if they are going to be willing to let us participate.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, assuming we get stuff from Scott and some follow-ups from there, we're going to be into, let's say, the first week of January, the week of the 5th. I'd like to start drafting the report by the beginning of January for us to start to look at it. So of the 32 articles, we lay them out. What's the article, what's the ask, what's the narrative, what's the priority, what's the funding source? There's a template, there's a structure for that. That's just wordsmithing. Get that in place, and ultimately, if we need to get the report done by the end of March, we're going to have a vote on each of those articles. Somewhere in March at the latest, I think.
When did you say that the articles have to be closed?
Did you
They
find
have
the
to
list?
submit it to, in beginning of February is generally when they need to be submitted to the administrator. That's the timeline we generally
The
give
actual
out.
articles themselves?
The article, yeah, whether, I mean, the language doesn't have to be perfect at that point, but just to,
All right,
so we can put together, start putting
Placeholders,
together
yeah.
placeholders for an actual warrant, so, for the
Perfect.
town meeting.
Yeah, and understanding certain things would be tweaked and potentially moved.
Because you're going to want to have discussions about the funding mechanism so you can move forward with everything that you've got planned.
Right, and, you know, I've made a lot of assumptions while we've worked through the financial the summit and so forth about what is likely to go forward. You know, for example, the push-off of doing some of the work at 4 West Main Street. I don't have that factored in as being something we're borrowing for or doing anything with the assumption that the building will get moved along before we tackle doing major renovations to that building.
Okay.
And by January, we'll have our insurance numbers, and we'll be that much further along with, you
It
know.
looked like a good conversation last night.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah,
And
that was
speaking
great.
of the schools, I mean, like you said, they have a protocol that they go about releasing information. Tomorrow night is the first regional school committee meeting whereby their budget is presented at that meeting. So we'll have a better number to factor into the operating budget. So we'll have a much better idea as we have some of these big moving pieces coming together.
I'm hoping, at the same time, I should probably be saying this under public comment, because it's not really a financial planning thing, but I really hope the select board starts to look at revenue streams, as in trash bags and everything else, to help bring in some revenue for this year.
Yeah, we
in
looked at all
coming
the
years.
permits, and we increased.
I know you did that,
those.
but we still got trash bags.
Yeah, I know. Well, did I send you the study that Scott had? I'll send it to you guys.
No.
The trash bag study.
I know there's been discussions on it in the periphery, but I don't know if there's anything finally formalized.
Okay.
I just want to get back to scheduling meetings.
I was about to.
Okay.
Thank you, Herr Doctor.
I always have other things.
How about we have a meeting of this committee the week of the 12th of January? That gives us time to get through the holidays, get information, digest things, become prepared with an agenda for follow-up questions the week of the 12th of January. How about the Thursday the 15th or Wednesday the 14th?
When do you think the school superintendent will have information about the roof? You think by the 15th?
I would hope so. Put it
You-
this way, if we don't by then, he's got to do some fancy dancing with his committee and his consultants.
Okay.
What's your calendar look like for appropriations? Are you meeting with them on Tuesdays or
I haven't
Thursdays?
set up a formal calendar with them yet.
You haven't?
But
Okay.
we were talking about Tuesdays.
Tuesdays?
In January.
In
starting
January.
in January.
Yes.
And
Tuesday or
do you
the
also have building committee meetings that you go to on Tuesdays?
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten an email yet to set aside those dates yet.
No.
So,
Yeah, because those are talked about as being Tuesdays.
Would Thursdays be good for you?
Yeah, Thursday, I mean,
Let's try to
Jan-
aim
Jan
for something on
15?
Thursday.
Jan 15th?
yeah, that's fine.
And 6:30? Anybody have preference on start time?
6:30 is good.
6:30? Okay,
15th.
good, all right. Any other business?
Well, let's keep going, right? Because that's discussion, but we still got to start voting on priorities, right? Or are you planning to do that on the 15th?
I expect, I hope, that by the middle of January, I've got together a first cut of a report, rough draft,
Okay,
for everyone to look at. And maybe there's priorities in those articles for a first cut, and we, as we go line by line, we can debate them in terms of, is this a 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. But certainly a first cut by the middle of January is my goal.
all right. So what about the finalization of our report? When do you want to do that by? Let's get that meeting scheduled, or the second cut of the priorities.
Well, I think what I heard earlier is we want to have that finalized by the end of March.
Right, but
We can
you
get
know how I am. I
sooner.
like to get it done early.
Yeah.
I want it to appropriations to the Board of Selectmen as early as possible,
I
so
agree
they
with you.
have something to look at to make some decisions for
Agreed,
themselves.
agreed.
Because they need to vote on all of these, and they're waiting for us to at least give them the input in regard to the capital. So I think we meet that time in January, we start to prioritize, we start talking about financing. We're going to need to talk as a board if we want to even go beyond borrowing. Do we
Right,
even think it's a
right.
worthwhile thing to do?
Well, do we want to set an aggressive goal? We want to get our report done by the end of February.
I don't,
Yes.
That
I
gives
think
us-
that's
That
great.
gives us roughly 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think we should.
You guys go.
Yes,
away.
no?
So we can schedule a second meeting, 2 weeks after the 15th, right? That puts us in February, and then if we have another meeting after that to finalize, and we still, by the end of February, we're done.
Yeah. I think we
I
need
think
at
that's
least
smart.
3 meetings, if not 4-ish.
Yes.
Depends on what comes up.
Don't look upset. We're going to need 4. It's a very different year.
I'm fine with that. No, because the last couple of years, we're at last minute, and it's very frustrating for me.
Yeah, I know.
Very frustrating.
Let's try to
Nobody
stick
reads
to
reports. They don't
Thursday
have
so
time.
that you can plan Tuesdays for
But
appropriations if
part
it
of-
works.
Part of the report should include the affordability of the debt, and a debt,
Right.
and a debt policy calculation. And, we did one for the financial summit, and obviously some things have changed as these projects have progressed this year. So, we'll need to do that. And then hopefully we'll have a better estimate for Peasley School, where the direction of that project is going, whether it's gonna be more on the 40 million or the 120 million side, so.
Yep.
So what if we say, like, February 5th, we have a meeting? Again, that's a Thursday. And 2 weeks after that, we have the 19th, and hopefully that would be the closeout meeting.
And, well, let's agree to calendar those for now. And as we get into the beginning of February, if we've got to step up the pace, we will.
Okay.
So Jan 15, Feb 5, Feb 19, all Thursdays, 6:30.
So just looking at the calendar, March 23rd is the hearing with the select board and appropriations on the budget, so
March
we
31st.
should be done by then.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason, March what?
March 23rd is the date. So I think this is just a date that was plugged into the calendar, but the week of March 9th to target for final votes.
I think we can do it before then. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, just as a
I think
Deadline
having
at
our
the end.
report done by the end of February is great.
It gets us out of his hair, and he can get working on the operating budget.
And then we can make sure it's publicized.
Okay.
People can see it.
All right.
And John, Susan brought this up earlier about the rating scale. Can you send that out to everybody
I
in
will.
advance with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wording? Because I recall the last time there were some things, there's a little bit of ambiguity there, like, well, this is a 1, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same as everyone would think it would with a 1.
We defined it in a table,
Yeah.
4 items, and then we use it in each of the warrant articles. In some cases, it's not applicable, it's a 1 and a 2, or whatever. I will get that out.
Understood, but just so like everybody
get it
can
out to
see
everybody.
it before we
Get it-
get into it.
I'll get that to everybody
We don't
tomorrow.
have to talk about it anymore.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
I'm just sending you guys the trash thing right now. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:07.
Second.
All those in favor? Roll
Aye.
call, roll
Aye.
call vote.
Roll call.
Ryan Maines. Ken Picard.
Aye.
Susan Satori.
Aye.
Mike Shaka.
Aye.
Scott Stockland.
Aye.
John Rappa, aye. Motion passes. Thank you all. Have a great holiday.
Yes, you guys too.